Chapter 28:47. You can tell me what you want to say. Luo Qingshan took a deep breath and said, I just woke up this afternoon, and there are many things that I don't understand. Lanji lowered her head slightly, and tears fell from her eyes in the next second. She held the mug on the table tightly and said, there were 30 people in our group, and half of them didn't make it out alive. Half of them. Luo Qingshan was shocked, and her fingers trembled slightly. You were in a daze, so you didn't know. Actually, I'm not too sure either. But I know that Gushu died because of me. When she said this, she looked up slowly and tears fell from her eyes. Actually, she had always known that Gushu liked her. That young man with dyed green hair had liked her for a long time. But she loved and worshipped another man. Gushu. You don't know that in the last 2 days, those people had already started to kill each other to survive. Lanji laughed coldly and said, our former classmates fought each other for a bottle of water. In such a peaceful era, they drew their swords against each other. So Mu Lichuan, Luo Qingshan was shocked. Was he also injured because of the water? Lanji froze and said, was young Master Li injured? Luo Qingshan shook her head and said, let's not talk about this first. What happened after that? Young Master Li and you were walking at the front of the group. In the last 2 days, we couldn't catch up to you at all. Lanji smiled bitterly and said, even I thought that I was going to die in the desert. Everyone around me was looking at me covetously. Gushu asked me to keep the last bottle of water and was stabbed to death by a classmate from the next class. And that person didn't survive either. Then how did you get out of the desert? Luo Qingshan pursed her lips and said, what else happened? We met a small lake. Lanji looked at her and said, a lake in the desert. Lake? Luo Qingshan said in realization, salt water? Yes. Lanji nodded and said, although it was salt water, it was better than nothing. We were all poisoned and had a high fever, but there was no water. We almost died there. Luo Qingshan suddenly nodded, but in the next second, her heart suddenly trembled, and even her hands couldn't stop shaking. She could only clench them tightly. She was certain that she and Mu Lichuan did not come across the small lake. How did they walk out of it? Where did the water come from? Qingshan. Lanji saw that she was silent and waved her right hand in front of her eyes. You don't look well. Ah. Luo Qingshan stared blankly. A faint guang could be seen in her eyes. I'm fine. Go on. Then, Mr. Wang let us out. When we saw the road, there were less than 15 of us left. Lanji looked at her and said, there has been no news from you and young Master Li. But Teacher Wang said that your parents have taken you away. I couldn't find you, so I could only send you messages. Actually, Lanji knew very well that she just wanted to know about Mu Lichuan's safety through Luo Qingshan. Perhaps everyone had an impossible person in their heart. She didn't want anything. She was satisfied as long as she liked him silently. After she woke up, the thing she was most afraid of was not seeing Mu Lichuan for the rest of her life. Chapter 28:48. I know. Luo Qingshan nodded faintly and said, that Su Man. Who is she? Teacher Wang is right. That Su Man is the relative of the female classmate who died in the desert 3 years ago. Lanji pursed her lips and said, she is her older sister. Lanji used simple words to describe this matter. Because only the boys in the class wanted to save her younger sister, she wanted to let the boys in the class go. However, she did not want to let go of those girls who were vain and who could differentiate between rich and poor so clearly. However, those people had already graduated and she had no place to take revenge. Coincidentally, there was a group of people from the photography faculty who were going into the desert. She hired a group disguised as an expedition team to bring them into the desert. The map was fake and the route she took was completely different from the planned route. Moreover, they were not in the outer ring of the desert. Instead, Su Man took a detour and brought them to the center of the desert. Did you find Su Man? Luo Qingshan asked in a daze. All she could see in front of her was Mu Lichuan's figure. Her heart did not seem to be able to calm down. Su Man turned herself in the next day. Lanji snorted coldly and said, she said that she regretted it. She was the one who fell into the devil's heart and wanted the people in our school to die with her younger sister. The people who died with her younger sister are really many. Luo Qingshun laughed coldly and said, "She's really crazy, yes." Lanji's voice choked, and she wiped her tears and said, "The ancient tree can't even come back." After a long while, Luo Qingshun sighed deeply. Her thoughts seemed to be completely out of control. Her hands trembled even more, and she could not even hold them properly. Lanji saw that she did not speak for a long time and patted her shoulder lightly and said, "What's wrong? Could it be that something happened to young Masterly?" Luo Qingshun kept avoiding her question. If young Masterly was fine, it was impossible for her not to answer her question. Could it be? "Lanji, I'll talk to you later." Luo Qingshun suddenly stood up and looked at her and said, "Don't worry, Mu Lichuan will be fine." Qingshun, rushing out of the coffee shop, Luo Qingshun almost ran to stop a taxi. She could no longer hear what Lanji was saying to her from behind. She only knew that her mind was filled with Mu Lichuan's figure and could not get rid of it. They had not encountered a small lake. They had no water. He had lost too much blood. How did she survive? When all the doubts converged into one person's focus, perhaps there would be an answer. The answer that made her heart ache. She didn't know how she got into the hospital, how she got into the elevator, and how she opened the door to Mu Lichuan's ward. She only knew that she wanted to see him. It was a feeling that no one could understand except for him. However, the moment she staggered into the ward, there was no one on the bed. She felt her legs go soft, and she fell to the ground. He wanted to stand up, but he found that he didn't have any strength left. But his mind was as clear as a mirror in the middle of the night. So clear. "Why are you sitting on the ground?" A voice as cool as water with a hint of indulgence rang out from behind her. In the next second, she was about to be carried up from the ground by the young man behind her. In a flash, she grabbed his hand and looked at his wrist that was wrapped in thick gauze. Chapter 2849. Cry. Don't cry. Mu Lichuan lifted her up from the ground. He wiped away her tears in a panic and patted her head gently. "I want to look for you after I woke up, but you weren't there. I was scared to death after the trip to the desert." He seemed to have seen through his own heart even more. At the moment of life and death, the only thought in his mind was not whether he could survive, but whether she could survive. It was probably this thought that had always existed in his mind that made him realize how important she was to him. Mu Lichuan. Luo Qingchen's voice was trembling with every word. It was a trembling from the bottom of her heart because she knew. How did she get out of the desert without water? However, the young man in front of her did not mention a word about this. "Don't cry." Mu Lichuan took 2 pieces of tissue paper and covered her eyes. "Luo Qingshun doesn't look pretty when you cry." "Mu Lichuan has never said that I'm pretty." Luo Qingshun choked. "So, is there a difference between crying and laughing?" "There is." He patted her back gently and said, "I hope that you can always laugh and never cry." This was great. None of the tragedy had happened. He was still alive, and she was still by his side. I want to ask you a question." She raised her hand gently and held the tissue paper that was stained with tears. She looked at Mu Lichuan with her red eyes and asked, "How do we get out of the desert?" Tom seemed to have stopped at this moment. The only sound that could be heard was the ticking of the clock in the room. She looked at his pale face through the dim light from the corridor, and her heart ached. In the end, she had lost him. In the passage of time, she had met someone who was willing to sacrifice his life for her. However, she didn't know how to repay him. "I held your hand, carried you on my back, and hugged you." Mu Lichuan narrowed his eyes and looked at her gently. "Just like that, we walked out of the desert. Actually, if it wasn't for the fact that they couldn't survive in the desert, they would have been fine. There were times when he missed the days they spent together in the desert. It was because there were only the 2 of them in the desert. It was as if there were only the 2 of them in the world and no one could disturb them. You know that's not what I'm asking." Luo Qingchan bit her lip and looked at him with a hoarse voice. What I want to ask is that we didn't cough." Before Luo Qingchan could finish her sentence, she was interrupted by Mu Lichuan's cough. He looked at her with his deep eyes and said, "Let's not talk about the process. Let's just talk about the result, okay?" Actually, he knew what she wanted to ask, but he didn't want to talk to her, because he didn't want to see her guilty expression. He didn't want to see her blaming herself. What? What do you mean? Moo. STSS was. STTSS was. The S the process TTTS. STTS to test ding. Affection has increased by 10. Mission completion rate is now 80%. Luo Qingxun probably didn't understand why he was the one who had increased her affection for him when he was the one who had said the confession. Chapter 2850. Is that it? Luo Qingxun bit her lip and said, but didn't the books say that saving someone's life is more important than anything else? You're my life. Mu Lichuan pulled her into his embrace and said, little ancestor, we've already made it out of the desert of death. Let's not talk about the process anymore, all right? This was Luo Qingxun's first time hearing Mu Lichuan talk to her in this tone. It was a helpless tone with a bit of pampering in it. It was as if listening to him quietly would give her a warm feeling. Okay. Seeing that she wasn't responding, Mu Lichuan was worried that she would cry on her own again. He quickly lifted her head and looked at her face. Indeed, she was crying like a little kitten, but she was a cute little kitten. She murmured and hugged Mu Lichuan. Using all her strength, she said word by word, if something really happens next time, you have to hide it well. Don't let me find out so easily. As she said this, she didn't forget to touch his wrist. She felt a lump in her throat and a thin layer of mist appeared in her eyes. What? Mu Lichuan leaned back on the sofa and carried her up. Is it because someone's heart aches for me? It's more than that. Luo Qingxun looked down and took a deep breath. It hurts so much. Did I hurt you? Or whenever she thought about what might have happened in the desert, she would feel terrible. Mu Lichuan quickly patted her head and said, my little ancestor, it's better for you to give yourself to me than anything else, all right? In the next second, his tone seemed to have turned serious. He looked in her eyes and said, you haven't answered me yet. Yes. Luo Qingxun replied almost instantly. Looking at his handsome face, she nodded and said, I came to this world for you. Perhaps to Mu Lichuan, those words sounded like sweet nothings, but it was the most sincere confession she had ever made. I didn't think that our little girl would say something like this. Mu Lichuan looked at her from head to toe and asked, have you told Su Chun about this before? I didn't, okay? Luo Qingxun snorted and looked away. Scum doesn't deserve it. Actually, other than Lanji's calls and messages, there was also Su Chen's. It was just that she automatically ignored it. Really? Mu Lichuan raised his eyebrows and looked at her with an inquisitive gaze. But I heard that Luo Qingxun used to like Professor Su a lot, including when I was in America. Cough, cough, cough. Luo Qingxun quickly blinked her eyes and cleared her throat. As the saying goes, a real man doesn't boast about his past achievements. Bravery? Air. Luo Qingxun corrected. What I meant was that I was still young and naive at that time. I didn't have good taste. I thought that if someone was good-looking, I would like them. Now that I've grown up, I know what true love is. You mean that when you grow up, you don't like good-looking people anymore? Of course not. Luo Qingxun shook her head hurriedly and said, the Royal Academy's most handsome man. No one can compete with him. Chapter 2851. While she was worried about him, she didn't know that he was worried about her as well. Furthermore, he was very sure that his love for her definitely exceeded hers by several times. His worry, heartache, anxiety, and uneasiness were magnified by several times. But I want to stay here. Luo Qingxun held his wrist and said, I feel safer staying by Mu Lichuan's side. I didn't plan to let you go. He chuckled and pressed the button on the sofa to lay it flat. Sleep well, but no buts. He looked at her slightly pursed lips and looked a little aggrieved, but he still wanted to urge her to sleep quickly. Luo Qingxun looked in his eyes and finally took the warm water. She took a few big gulps and compromised. All right. Everything had come to an end. Although she didn't see the process, it didn't mean that it didn't happen. What she wanted to do from now on was simple. She wanted to be good to Mu Lichuan. No, she wanted to be especially good to Mu Lichuan. When she opened her eyes again, it was already the next day. She was carried from the sofa to the bed. Mu Lichuan was nowhere to be seen, but there was a message from him on the bedside table. It was a messy handwriting but it was very beautiful. I'm going out for a while. If you're awake, watch TV for a while. Luo Qingshun read the note for a while, then got out of bed and put on a jacket. She put on her slippers and walked out of the ward. Because it was a VIP ward, the hospital corridor was very quiet. It was so quiet that she thought she could hear her father's voice. My father was scared out of his wits after what happened in the desert. Father Luo was talking to someone. Luo Qingshun tiptoed into the room and listened. Then, she realized that the voice was coming from the meeting room. When she peeked through the gap in the door, not only did she see Mu Lichuan, but she also saw his father. Before she left the country, the Luo family and the Mu family had always been neighbors. Therefore, she had a deep impression of Mu Lichuan's father's stern face. Elder Luo is old, but he only has Qing Chun as his granddaughter, so it's natural for him to be nervous. Father Mu said with a smile, "It's a good thing that the two of them helped each other and came back safely." Sigh. Father Luo sighed. There's no such thing as helping each other. If it weren't for Lichuan, I'm afraid Qing Chun. Now that you're back, why are you still saying such depressing words? Luo Mu interrupted him and said, "That's good. Yesterday, Dad said that Qingchun's heir was ahead of schedule. She doesn't have to wait until she's 20, and she doesn't have to suffer alone in school. Auntie, don't worry. She didn't suffer." Perhaps it was because of the mention of Luo Qingchun's name. Mu Lichuan's mind kept replaying the scene of her scolding people. So eye-catching, so radiant, yes. Luo Mu immediately responded. This is also thanks to Lichuan's care at school. Actually, I didn't really take care of her. Mu Lichuan smiled politely and said, Qingchun is very smart. Even though she's studying in an elite school as an ordinary student, she's still able to handle everything well. It seems like Lichuan has a high opinion of our Qingchun. Luo Mu looked at him happily and said, "Are you close?" Actually, Luo Mu's question was very tactful. She thought that Mu Lichuan would give her a tactful answer. She didn't expect him to be so direct. Chapter 28:52. Perhaps Mu Lichuan was too direct, so much so that even Luo Qingshun, who was peeping at them from the door, was stunned, let alone the scene in the meeting room. Father Mu was probably shocked by his sudden words, for he coughed several times. The atmosphere was not awkward, but it was unusually awkward. Do you like Qingchun? Mother Luo was the first to break the silence. She smiled kindly at Mu Lichuan and said, "You used to play together when you were young. I thought you were just friends." "We used to be friends, but not anymore," Mu Lichuan said softly. "I hope that uncle and auntie can agree." What does Qingchun think?" Mother Luo looked at Father Luo. At this moment, the two fathers had nothing to say. Usually, the mother would be the one asking questions. With a loud bang, the door of the meeting room was opened. Actually, Luo Qingchun wasn't the one who opened the door. She was the one who lost her balance and pushed the door open. The atmosphere was awkward for the second time. Mu Lichuan looked at her pale face and couldn't help but frown. What a disobedient little girl. Oh no, to be more precise, she was a disobedient little ancestor. Ha 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 ha. Luo Qingchun looked at the parents and Mu Lichuan in the meeting room and gave a few dry laughs. She waved her hand and said, "Hello everyone. Have you eaten yet?" It was so quiet that you could hear a pin drop on the floor. Awkward, awkward, awkward. He felt as if there was a group of crows flying over his head, cawing as they flew by. After a few seconds, Luo Qingchun felt that the atmosphere was strange. Since no one was responding to her, she decided to be straightforward. "Yes, Dad, Mom, I want to marry Mu Lichuan." Luo Qingchun took a deep breath and nodded. "I'm already an adult. If you agree, our families will be connected by marriage. Everyone will be happy. If you don't..." Before Luo Qingchun could finish her sentence, Mu Lichuan cleared his throat and interrupted her. "Let's elope." The cold wind blew and the curtains in the meeting room fluttered. Mu Lichuan was sitting against the light. His chestnut-colored hair shone brightly under the sunlight. He narrowed his eyes and looked at her affectionately. It was as if he was telling her, "Did I say what you wanted to say in your heart?" In fact, Mu Lichuan had really said what he wanted to say. Not a single word was missing. "Well, In the end, it was Mu Lichuan's father who spoke first. He pushed up his gold-rimmed glasses and said, "Brother Luo, although 2 children, this is a more direct way to express love, but it can be considered to have expressed the meaning clearly." Yes, yes. Since someone had taken the lead, Father Luo naturally followed and said, "The 2 children could be considered as childhood sweethearts, and we are good friends. If the 2 of them can get married, it will definitely be a joyous occasion." Joyous occasion. That's great. Papa Moose smiled. We really don't have to worry about them. No worries, no worries, no worries at all. After that, Luo Qingshun didn't pay attention to the conversation between the elders. She sat opposite Mu Lichuan, against the light. He looked at her quietly with a faint smile on his face. He was looking at her too. His eyes were half closed, and the corners of his lips were slightly raised. His dark eyes were filled with love. Chapter 28:53. The Luo family's inheritance ceremony was set to be held 3 days later, probably because of the trip to the desert. Luo Qingxin's grandfather suddenly understood that sometimes life and death were only separated by a single thought. Since he only had one granddaughter, and it was imperative for her to become the heir, there was no need for him to wait so long. This was a good thing for Luo Qingxin. After all, she had been wronged in school for so long and could finally avenge herself. Have you been wronged? Although the system was not cute most of the time, she was in a good mood and did not argue with it. This was because other than the early inheritance ceremony, her engagement ceremony with Mu Lichuan would also be held on the 7th of next month. In fact, it seemed that when they were young, their families had wanted to get engaged. However, she was still too young at that time and had left the country early, so this matter was temporarily put aside. To both parents, now that their children liked each other, they were overjoyed that such a thing happened naturally. Luo Qingshan rested at home for 3 days. After the inheritance ceremony ended, she then prepared to go to school. Thinking about it, she had not been to school for more than half a month. Ever since she met Lan Ji briefly at the hospital, they had not contacted each other again. At 11:30 at night, she laid on the luxurious princess bed after drying her hair. She could not help but smile. She had not returned to the villa for a long time, because she was not 20 years old and had not become the heir of the Luo family. Even returning to the villa was a very luxurious thing for her. Thinking about it, this set of family rules of the Luo family was quite inhumane. Beep, beep, beep. Just as she was about to turn off the lights and sleep, her phone rang with a text message. Luo Qingsheng glanced at it and saw that it was a text message from Mu Lichuan. "Miss Fiancé, can we go to school together tomorrow?" From Mu Lichuan. Luo Qingsheng, who was holding her phone, could not help but laugh when she saw Mu Lichuan's text message. Did he have to be so naughty when he called her Miss Fiancé? Okay, Mr. Fiancé. From Luo Qingsheng. Beep, beep. She had just put down her phone when the text message rang again. "Good girl. To reward you for being so obedient, look out the window." From Mu Lichuan. Luo Qingxin's eyebrows trembled slightly. She got up and walked towards the window. The moment she opened the curtains, there was a whoosh sound and the silent night sky was lit up with fireworks. It was so beautiful that it lit up the entire night sky. The beautiful fireworks looked just like Mu Lichuan's. In a moment of carelessness, in a silent night, he broke into her heart without any warning. If he didn't predict it in advance, he would be caught off guard. Beep. The moment the fireworks disappeared, her phone. Miss Fiancé. From Mu Lichuan. Good night. Asterisk caret asterisk. Luo Qing Chen Shi. To sleep. Her body was to be. To sleep's twos. Her body. Her body's her soul. Hers. That was how studying was. It was as if one could fall asleep as soon as they touched the bed. Once they slept, they could sleep until the sky turned dark. After putting on her clothes, she walked from the 3rd floor to the living room in a daze. She almost missed a step. After all, she was not used to the fact that she was in her own villa with all kinds of breakfast on the table. When she walked into the living room, 4 maids in black and white maid outfits greeted her in unison. "Good morning, Mississippi." Chapter 28:54. Okay. Luo Qingshun laughed awkwardly. Then, she picked up the bread and milk on the table and walked towards the entrance. Indeed, it had been a long time since she enjoyed the treatment of a lady. So, this was how it felt to be the heir. She had yet to experience the feeling of exhilaration. Instead, she felt a little awkward. When she opened the door, Mu Lichuan's Maserati was already waiting for her. It was snowing, and the fir trees in front of the door were covered in snow. He was wearing a winter school uniform with a yellow sweater and a dark red bow tie. He also had a coffee-colored jacket draped over his shoulders. Against this pure, white, snowy scenery, it was so beautiful that nothing could be more beautiful. Whoa! Luo Qingchen yawned and sat in the front passenger seat. Mu Lichuan looked at her with a slight frown and asked, "You didn't sleep well last night?" "I slept very well." Luo Qingchen pursed her lips and said, "I didn't have any dreams last night. This is the best sleep I've had since the day I went to the desert." Mu Lichuan narrowed his eyes and said, "Then why do you still look so tired?" "Because being a student means that you never get enough sleep." Luo Qingchen chuckled and looked ahead. "Let's go." When they arrived at the school gate, there was still half an hour before class started. However, the gate was already filled with people. Among them were Gu Zhu from the mathematics department, Bai Shui, who had escaped from the desert, Lan Ting, and Su Chun. There were also a bunch of Mu Lichuan's fangirls in school. Perhaps some of them were here to watch the show, but most of them were here to pick Mu Lichuan up. This was because they were all holding flowers in their hands, and some even brought fruit baskets. To be honest, this scene was quite comical, and it made people want to laugh. Actually, she almost laughed out loud. However, when she turned around and saw Mu Lichuan's gloomy eyes, she immediately suppressed her laughter. As Mu Lichuan's fans, it was natural that they didn't like Luo Qingchen. She was from a different family, and there was a huge gap between their statuses. In their eyes, someone like Mu Lichuan, who was the most handsome boy in school, would never have anything to do with an ordinary girl. However, he did end up getting involved with her. They initially thought that an ordinary girl like her wouldn't stay by Mu Lichuan's side for long, but they never thought that he wouldn't let her leave even after they returned from the desert. What was even more unexpected was that Mu Lichuan would drive her to school today. "Get out of the way. I won't repeat myself." Mu Lichuan rolled down the car window with a dark expression on his face. For him, Luo Qingchen was enough. He didn't need anyone else, nor did he need any worshippers. Everyone retreated to the side resentfully, and the car proceeded smoothly. Ahem! In the parking lot, Luo Qingchen cleared her throat. She smiled and teased, "I didn't expect my fiancé to be so popular." When he returned to school after recovering from a serious illness, there were so many fangirls lined up to welcome him. Luo Qingchen thought that he would give a symbolic explanation, but she didn't think that he would actually express what he wanted to say. She heard a cabinet sound. His right hand instantly wrapped around her waist and pressed her against the car. Without saying a word, he kissed her. Luo Qingchen didn't even realize what was happening. He seemed to have conquered her territory very quickly and only let go of her after about 10 seconds. The first time was unfamiliar, but the second time was familiar. Chapter 2855. On the other hand, Luo Qingchen stared at him with wide eyes, her cheeks flushing red. "Try being naughty again." His gaze was dark, a smile on his lips, and his eyes were full of affection. She knew that he did not like to hear these words, but she still teased him on purpose. If he did not give her a little punishment, she would go to heaven. Luo Qingchen was anxious and stomped her feet. "Mu Lichuan, if you have something to say it properly. A gentleman uses his mouth and not his fists, okay?" Why did he suddenly... She didn't even have time to react, okay? The next second, he narrowed his eyes and took her hand. "I use my mouth." Why did he suddenly feel like he was suffering in silence? There was an indescribable bitterness. Photography Class 1. When she returned to class, her heart suddenly skipped a beat, and she felt very sad. This time, a total of 15 people from Class 123 had died in the desert, and 6 of them were from Class 1. Although she had just come to this class and had not even spoken a word to the people who died in the desert. But looking at this scene now, There was an indescribable feeling in her heart. She glanced around, and her eyes finally landed on Lan Ji. The seat behind them was empty. Gu Shu, who had dyed his hair green and often bickered with Lan Ji, would never come back. Lan Ji waved at her softly. She took a deep breath and walked over. It was already late winter, and the snow outside the window was getting heavier. They had a new form teacher, a man with a crew cut. Wang Ying had already resigned, and no one knew where she went. They only knew that she had even moved her house. After the morning class, Mu Lichuan went back early because he had something to do at home. Actually, Luo Qingchen knew that it was about their wedding. After all, it was a marriage between the two most prestigious families in a city. The scene would definitely be as grand as it could be. However, Mu Lichuan had told her that she didn't have to worry about such trivial matters. All she needed to do was to focus on her studies in school and wait to be a beautiful bride. In fact, the monologue in her heart was she wanted to care more about miscellaneous things, and she didn't want to attend classes even more. Unfortunately, young Master Mu did not hear her inner monologue. During lunch, Lan Ji had something on and did not join her. She happened to receive a call from Li Xiu, so she went to the mathematics department to wait for her. The little fat girl is still the little fat girl. She hasn't changed at all. She's still so fat. Luo Qingchen was very happy to see her. Perhaps it was easy to get along with someone who was pure and innocent. Qingchen, long time no see, I missed you. Why are you insulting me the moment we meet? Li Xiu hugged her arm and said, when I heard about what happened in the desert, I was so scared that my heart almost jumped out. Let's not talk about those things. Luo Qingchen sighed and shook her head with a smile. Besides, you have a big heart. After all, you are fat. That's too much. Li Xiu looked at her with an aggrieved expression and said, to think that I was so worried. Little did she know that before Li Xiu could finish her sentence, a rugby ball came over and hit the back of her head. Luo Qingchen quickly pulled her behind her and narrowed her eyes at the teenagers in sportswear not far away. Chapter 2856. It wasn't that they hadn't seen each other for a long time. They had just met this morning when she came to the school gate to welcome Mu Lichuan. Oh my, I didn't see clearly. The young man's tone was sarcastic as he continued. But it's okay. Fat people aren't afraid of being hit. Luo Qingchen narrowed her eyes, and at that moment, her entire body emitted a cold aura. Li Xiu seemed to have sensed her anger and quickly said, Qingchen, forget it. I'm fine too. I'm fat. It's okay to be hit. Let's go eat. Before she could finish her sentence, Luo Qingchen picked up the football on the ground. At that moment, the ring on her right ring finger glowed with a faint golden light as she threw the football at the young man with the lollipop in his mouth. Ouch! She knew that she didn't use too much strength because the young man's nose started to bleed, and it was crooked. Ouch! I didn't see clearly. Luo Qingchen imitated his tone and shrugged, but it's okay. Ugly people aren't afraid of being hit. You motherf asterisk her, you motherf asterisk her, the young man roared. Do you know who I, Wang Yu, am? I want your whole family to die with me. Brother you don't know this. She's young Master Li's new lover. You can't touch her. Gu Zhu put her hands in her pockets and looked at her condescendingly. If I could hit her, I wouldn't have to vent my anger on this fat girl every day. Oh, so she's young Master Li's new lover. Last month, I went to Dubai with my mother for a month. I didn't expect young Master Li's taste to have changed. He likes this kind of innocent girl, and she's quite feisty. Unfortunately, young Master Li won't be single anymore. Wang Yu's attitude changed when he heard Mu Lichuan's name. However, his eyes were still filled with anger. Luo Qingchen, on the other hand, was more concerned about what Gu Zhu said. She turned to Li Xiu and asked, Did they bully you? No. Li Xiu held her hand and said nervously, Let's go. Why are you leaving? Is it because you know that you can't rely on anyone anymore? Gu Zhu smiled coldly and said, You ordinary people naturally don't know that young Master Li is about to be engaged to the daughter of the Luo family. Oh. I forgot that your surname is also Luo. It's a pity that you have the same surname, but different fate. At this moment, there were already a lot of onlookers. As soon as Gu Zhu's voice fell, she heard the lively discussion around her. This circle wasn't big, but it wasn't small either. Everyone knew what they should know. Yes, I also heard it from my dad. The engagement between young Master Li and the daughter of the richest man in the country. I heard that she'll be back from America in a few days, but I don't know if she'll be studying at an elite school like us. I'm so envious. They're of equal status. But this ordinary girl is doomed. Once young Master Li gets engaged, she'll probably be finished. Isn't it? That was why Queen Zhuzhu dared to treat her this way. What goes around comes around. This is the fate of ordinary students. Amidst the discussions, the loudest voice belonged to Bai Shui. Ever since she came back from the desert, she was the one who didn't change at all. She seemed to have become numb to herself as she kept talking about what happened in the desert. She even forgot about the pathetic state she was in there. When they met again, she still had that arrogant look on her face. Chapter 28:57. Bai Shui's voice was sharp, and she seemed to have let go of everything. There were even some words that sounded similar to Gu Zhu's. It was a voice that made people frown. Qingchun, let's go. The chubby girl hadn't changed. Whenever she was in a situation like this, she would do it abnormally. Even her voice was trembling. All right, Luo Qingchun looked up coldly and said, let's go. Hey, you want to leave just like that? Wang Yu thought that he had the upper hand, but he didn't forget to provoke her. Are you going to tell on me to young Master Li? Let me tell you, young Master Li already has a fiancée. He won't be interested in you. Although Wang Yu didn't know Mu Lichuan personally, he had heard a lot about him. He was the most handsome guy in school who had never been touched by a single flower. Not to mention Bai Shui. There were many beautiful girls before Bai Shui. Gentle, cute, shrewish, sexy. They always thought that as long as they stood beside Mu Lichuan, they would be able to stand beside him forever. Unfortunately, the cruel reality always came too quickly and caught them off guard. Therefore, from Wang Yu's point of view, Luo Qingchun was no different from those girls. In Mu Lichuan's world, it was only a matter of time before she fell out of favor. It's none of your business whether he likes me or not. Luo Qingchun gently pushed the chubby girl back with her right hand. She then looked at Wang Yu and said, but if you really want to interfere, you need to have the ability to do so. As soon as she finished speaking, Luo Qingchun didn't forget to point at his bleeding nose. It was as if she wanted to start a war with him. Since it was noon, there were many people coming and going. This was the first time Wang Yu was humiliated like this. Naturally, he couldn't take it. Remember this. You were the one who attacked me first. I was just defending myself. As soon as he finished speaking, he signaled the two people behind him with his eyes. The two of them immediately understood and walked towards Luo Qingchun. She looked like she was about to rush in. No, she looked like she wanted to beat her up. Luo Qingchun sneered and glanced at Wang Yu. She had some impression of the name Wang Yu. The Wang's group was dealing with gold and jade in City A, but there was a prodigal son who liked to cause trouble. 10 years ago, the Wang Consortium was still at its peak in the business circle, but in recent years, it had begun to decline. Wang Yu's father wanted to cooperate with Luo Qingchun's father many times, but he was firmly rejected. From the looks of it, the Wang group was probably going to be destroyed in Wang Yu's hands. After all, who would fight in broad daylight? Along with Li Xiu's scream, the two men sent by Wang Yu directly fell to the ground. In the next second, Luo Qingchun arrived at Wang Yu's side at an extremely fast speed. She grabbed his neck and said, do you think your life is more honorable or mine? Wang Yu didn't even have time to react before he felt his throat tighten. Even breathing was a bit difficult. Luo Qingchun controlled her strength very well. She made the other party feel uncomfortable, but she didn't make the other party stop breathing. Are you crazy? I am Wang Yu, he said with a red face. If you dare to hurt me, my dad won't let you off. Chapter 28:58. Probably because the feeling of suffocation gradually increased, Wang Yu's heart suddenly began to feel afraid. Luo Qingchun was just an ordinary person. People like her were almost everywhere in a city. Even if she had to pay with her life, it would not be a pity. But he was different. He was the heir of a family with tens of millions of assets. He still had a lot of time to spend. He absolutely absolutely could not die together with this lunatic. A real man knows when to yield and when to stand tall. The best policy was to compromise at the moment. Heroine, heroine, please spare my life. The next second, Wang Yu's legs immediately softened. With a thump sound, he knelt on the ground and looked at Luo Qingxin. You are a great person. Treat me as a fart and let me go. In the future, you will be the boss at school. Having a younger brother like you will only make people feel disgusted. Luo Qingxin waved her right hand and coldly said, "Get lost." Wang Yu almost took 3 steps and 2 steps quickly away from Luo Qingxin. Then he pointed at her and shouted, "You wait for me. I tell you, Luo Qingxin, even the emperor can't save you." Seeing Wang Yu leave, Guzhu clenched her teeth and looked at Luo Qingxin. You won't be arrogant for long." She naturally did not want to suffer losses. After all, 2 big men were so weak in front of Luo Qingxin, let alone her, a delicate young lady. The surrounding students also gradually dispersed. Some of them admired Luo Qingxin's skills, while others were waiting to see her make a fool of herself. However, she really did not care about these. She had seen too many small people and was numb. "Little fat girl, are you still in the mood to eat?" Luo Qingxin took her hand and smiled. "Don't be afraid. I'm here. I feel that I can't eat anymore." Li Xiu touched her belly with an aggrieved face. "But I'm afraid that I will be hungry in the afternoon if I don't eat." "Then eat." But what?" "But I'm afraid this is the last lunch." Wang Yu had a bad reputation in school. It was said that in the past he had frequently impregnated female students, but in the end, he had to pay for it. Li Xiu's worry was definitely not without reason. After all, evil people often caused mischief. Luo Qingxin had brazenly humiliated him. It would be strange if he didn't retaliate. However, he needed to have the ability to do so. After lunch, Luo Qingxin asked for leave in the afternoon and returned to the company directly. Wang's group stock market had not been very stable recently. If she took this opportunity to give it a blow, it would definitely plunge into a steep decline. However, Wang Yu, who was still thinking about how to take revenge on Luo Qingxin, didn't know about this at all. He originally wanted to intercept Luo Qingxin after school, but she didn't come to school in the afternoon. Wasn't this little girl very arrogant? Why did you go back early? Wang Yu spat and lit a cigarette. Guzhu stood beside him and coldly snorted. "I heard that young master Li has been busy with the engagement recently. Luo Qingxin naturally knows that she is done for. She probably won't dare to show up. I've been waiting for this day for too long." Standing on the other side of Wang Yu, Bai Shui widened her eyes and clenched her fists. "Finally, I've been waiting for this day." She wanted to see Luo Qingxin become the target of public criticism. She wanted to see her lose everything. She wanted to see her abandoned and her dignity trampled on infinitely. Chapter 2859. Bai Shui clenched her teeth and agreed, yeah, she must have used some tricks to make young Master Li keep her by his side. "Don't worry, a dog will always be a dog. Whether it's in the mathematics or photography department, she'll always be a dog." Guzhu picked up a lady's cigarette and took a puff. "That rich girl will be coming back from America tomorrow. I heard that the school has arranged a welcoming ceremony. I like to see how she'll behave like a stray dog." Tisk tsk tisk. Wang Yu looked around and said, "Don't be too happy yet. Who knows, this dog might be too embarrassed to come to school." Ha ha. The laughter of the 3 of them filled the school grounds. At this moment, they only had one goal, and that was to see Luo Qingxin make a fool of herself. Unfortunately, they wouldn't be able to see it. The next morning, Luo Qingxin woke up early. She changed into a brand new uniform and got into the Luo family's Porsche 911. Mu Lichuan didn't come to pick her up. He said that he wanted to see her shine. She suddenly felt that Mr. Mu was very strange sometimes. He wanted to see her shine, but when she did, he would get jealous easily. The car drove all the way from the villa to the school. Before it even reached the school gate, it slowed down. She sat in the last row. All the curtains were drawn, but she could feel that there was a crowd outside. Moreover, the discussions of the spectators were always particularly loud. Is that the rich girl sitting in there? Yes, yes. It's a Porsche. Not only in City A, but even in the entire country, there aren't many of them. To be honest, she's a real rich girl. She and young Masterly are a good match. Hey, don't you know? Yesterday, Guju already sent someone to cause trouble for that student. Today, everyone is waiting at the school gate, but she didn't show up. In the next second, a familiar and sharp voice was heard. Luo Qingshun didn't need to open the curtains to know who it was. Guju sneered and said, "Does she have the guts to come? Her arrogance ends here, all right?" "Queen Zhu, are you sure she didn't come?" One of the students asked, "Could it be that you didn't want to be too embarrassed, so you went in early?" "Impossible." Bai Shui immediately denied. "She didn't come. I can see through that disgusting face of hers. This kind of white lotus, she really thought that her Cinderella could fly to the branch and become a phoenix. Actually, it's just a wild chicken." Shui, how can you call her pheasant?" Guju revealed a cold smile and said, "She's clearly a wild dog, and a dog that doesn't know her place. From a class parking lot to the bar, no matter where it was. As long as she, Guju, met Luo Qingshun, every time she wanted to humiliate her, she would inexplicably return in a sorry state. And today, she finally had the chance. Finally, there was someone who was compatible with Mu Lichuan in terms of social status. She was Mu Lichuan's fiancée, and this lowly person called Luo Qingshun was going to be abandoned. Chapter 2860. Birds of a feather flocked together. Gu Zhu, Bai Shui, and Wang Yu, because they had the same enemy in their hearts, they suddenly became good friends. They were waiting for the daughter of the richest man to get out of the Porsche. They even hoped that Luo Qingshun would appear at the school gate at the same time. In this way, they could logically and openly mock her. Whether it was Gu Zhu, Bai Shui, or Wang Yu, who had just joined the battle, they didn't have any grudges against Luo Qingshun. But in their eyes, as an ordinary student, she should follow their lead and listen to their words. But Luo Qingshun, an ordinary student, wasn't that kind of person. What was worse was that she always easily made them jealous and embarrassed. This was what they couldn't tolerate and what they wanted to take revenge on the most. Luo Qingshun, sitting in the car, put on a hat that matched her school uniform. Her lips curled into a faint smile as she took out a pair of sunglasses from her pocket and put them on. It wasn't because the sun was too bright, but because she looked more handsome wearing sunglasses. "Xiaochun, stop the car here." Yes, Mississippi, the car stopped 10 meters away from the school gate. She didn't know if it was because the luxury car was too attractive or because those people wanted to see her face too much. Even though it was almost time for class, there were still many people gathered around the car. There were even many onlookers in the front row who were taking photos with their phones. With a kata sound, Luo Qingshun opened the door. "Wow, look, she's getting out of the car. She looks like a beauty just by looking at her side profile. She exudes the temperament of a beauty from head to toe." "Nonsense. She's the daughter of the richest man in the country. She came back from studying in the United States. She definitely has the temperament. Okay? Sure enough, there's a gap between the rich and the poor. There's also a gap between the rich and the super rich." Listening to these words, it really made one feel incomparably hypocritical. Wang Yu saw her calves first, and his eyes lit up. He showed a mesmerized expression and said, "She's the daughter of a rich man. Even her calves are so charming. If she wasn't Li Xiao's fiancée, I would have chased after her. Come on, you." Gu Zhu crossed her arms in front of her chest and narrowed her eyes. "Your status is still far from his. Sister Zhu is right." Bai Shui held Gu Zhu's hand and said, "Although I still like Li Xiao, the person who deserves him should be someone with status, not someone what?" Before Gu Zhu's words could finish, Luo Qingshun directly. Gu Zhu could clearly feel her heart suddenly tremble. Why did this voice have an inexplicable sense of familiarity? And this feeling made her feel incomparably fearful and endless panic at that moment. Everyone's eyes is on. She put her hands in her pockets and leaned against the Porsche. Her eyes slightly raised and her lips curled into a faint smile as she said, The someone you were talking about wouldn't be Luo Qingchun, right? The air seemed to freeze at that moment. After that, Luo Qingchun slowly took her right hand out of her pocket and took off her sunglasses. Ding! Affection has increased by 10. Mission completion rate is now 90%. The system also added a sentence. The host is so handsome, especially pretentious. Chapter 2861. She knew that Mu Lichuan was nearby, but she didn't show herself because she wanted to see her dazzling face. And indeed, she did it. Everyone took a cold breath at that moment. Guju took a step back and said in a trembling voice, Luo Qingchun, why are you here? Why? Bai Shui's legs turned to jelly, and she fell to the ground. Her face turned pale in an instant. She felt that her breathing was extremely rapid, and she even felt like she couldn't breathe. What the F***? Luo Qingchun, you. It can't be that you're deliberately imitating. You. How is this possible? Wang Yu's eyes popped out, especially wanting to curse to ease his nervousness. However, he didn't know why, but as long as he looked into Luo Qingchun's eyes, he couldn't bring himself to curse. Imitating who? Luo Qingchun looked at them with a faint light in her eyes and said, Do you think I need to imitate someone? You, Wang Yu, oh Wang Yu. Luo Qingchun looked up and smiled. I'm afraid you don't know yet. Your company's stocks will fall today. If you don't believe me, why don't you take a look when a market opens? Are you really the daughter of Luo Enterprise? Wang Yu covered his mouth. He couldn't deny this fact. He had to face reality. At least, Wang Yu recognized the truth. If Luo Qingchun wasn't the daughter of the Luo family, how could she get out of this limited edition Porsche? Luo Qingchun narrowed her eyes and looked at Bai Shui. Finally, her gaze landed on Guju. Do you think it matters to me whether I believe you or not? No. Guju screamed and shook her head crazily. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Don't be fooled by her. I've been classmates with her for so long. I know better than any of you what kind of person she is. She can't be the daughter of a rich family. A voice as cold as water slowly sounded. A youth wearing a yellow goose sweater walked towards Luo Qingchun's direction. He put his hands in his pockets and stepped on the white snow with a faint smile on his face. Wherever he looked, it was his fiancée. The moment Guju saw Mu Lichuan, she became even more excited. She wanted to rush up and grab his hand, but he turned sideways and dodged her perfectly. Guju fell to the ground with a thud, and her tears instantly fell. She cried and shouted, Young Master Li, what's wrong with her? She's a rich young lady. She must be lying to you. She wants to pretend to be your fiancée. Don't believe it. This kind of woman is a white lotus. She is a liar? Who what? Mu Lichuan frowned slightly, as if he was trying to recall the girl's name. However, after thinking for a long time, he still couldn't remember what her name was. He had no choice but to skip the greeting and said, If you want to investigate someone, please do a thorough investigation. My family and the Luo family are neighbors in the villa area. Qingchun and I grew up together. Do you think I should believe your words or my own eyes? Chapter 2862. A person with such a low status in her eyes unexpectedly became the daughter of the richest man in the country. How could she accept such a change in status? The originally quiet surroundings suddenly became noisy again. The onlookers seemed to be more excited, as if they were watching a drama with a twist. Wow. So Li Xiao knew Luo Qingchun's identity all along. Not only that, Li Xiao's words contained a lot of information. So he and Luo Qingchun were childhood sweethearts. No wonder he wanted to save her that day. Wow, are all the rich people like to play like this? Cosplay as a commoner. TSK, this time Guju and that Bai Shui really slapped their faces. I'm worried for them, even though I'm just a bystander. I don't think so. I just glanced at my phone, the stock market opened. That person, who calls himself School Bully Wang Yu, I think they're playing around. In fact, in many cases, although the words of the onlookers were exaggerated, they also analyzed the facts. At this time, Guju seemed to be speechless. Her face was almost bloodless, and her eyes were full of panic. Even at this moment, the whole thing had been settled, but she kept shaking her head and muttering the same sentence. Impossible. 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 She prepared for so long, and even lying in bed last night, she was too excited to sleep. For her, she wanted to see Luo Qingshan's embarrassed appearance so much. Unfortunately, reality gave her a heavy blow, and she couldn't react at all. She didn't want to believe, even until death, she didn't want to believe that Luo Qingshan was a rich young lady. Moreover, she was a rich young lady with a higher status than her. At this moment, Wang Yu heard the classmates around him discussing the stock price of Wang's group. Suddenly, he rushed to Luo Qingshan and directly hugged her leg, kneeling at her feet and howling. Miss Luo, you're a great person who doesn't care about petty people, so don't care about people like me. I was actually bewitched by Guju. She said that if I helped her find trouble with you, she would sleep with me for a night. At this moment, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. It turned out that Guju and Wang Yu actually had such a deal between them. It was truly shocking. Shut up. Guju's sharp voice almost broke at this moment. He raised his finger and pointed at Wang Yu's nose. Do you think you're any better? Last year, the senior who committed suicide by jumping off a building was because you forced yourself on her, right? And that junior, she transferred schools because of your dirty actions, okay? How good do you think you are? Wow, one of the onlookers shouted. Are they exposing each other? Another person said, looks like we can dial 110 now. Mu Lichuan looked up slightly and held Luo Qingshan's wrist with his right hand as they walked in another direction. Since everything had been settled, it was better for him to take his fiancée away himself, in case someone else took advantage of the situation. After all, he saw a familiar face in the crowd. Su Chun. Although it might be a coincidence that he was here, he felt that there were too many coincidences. Chapter 2863. Qing Chun. Oh, Miss Luo. Just a few steps away, someone called her name. Luo Qingshan looked sideways. Standing beside her was Bai Shui in a white sweater. Her expression was still very flustered. It was unknown whether her lips were frozen by the ice or frightened by the reality. But in short, there was no color at all. Seeing Luo Qingshan did not speak, she immediately bent down, tears falling down, pursing her lips and saying, I don't know your identity. I did a lot of things before now I know I was wrong. Can you forgive me? Her voice was choked with sobs, but her hands were tightly clenched into fists. Luo Qingshan knew that she still hated her, but she had to bow to her. Luo family was high in the business circle, even in the city. It was not something that her family, with a little money, could compare with. Wang Yu's example was in front of her. At this moment, if she did not bow to Luo Qingshan, she was afraid that her Bai family would also suffer. Oh, you know you were wrong? Luo Qingshan pursed her lips and sneered. Then let me ask you. Today, I'm still an ordinary student, without any aristocratic halo. How will you treat me today? Her words came true, and she threw the question to Bai Shui in a short sentence. How would she treat her? Didn't she know in her heart? Would she let her go? No, she would not. I'm not that bad. I'll let you go. I just lost my mind and was bewitched by Guju. I won't do anything to you. Then why are you dressed up today and standing in front of this Porsche? I won't forgive you. Luo Qingshan gave a cold laugh as a cold look flashed in her eyes. Because I know that if you have the chance to humiliate me, you won't let me off. As soon as her voice fell, Luo Qingshan proudly turned around, not even looking back. Don't do to others what you don't want done to you. Since he had already made up his mind to embarrass the enemy and make them the target of public criticism, then the winner would be the king and the loser would be the bandit. Bai Shui, Guju, Wang Yu, and if she lost one day, she would not beg anyone to let her go. Since they already hated each other, there was no need to struggle or beg for mercy. It was meaningless. Bai Shui heard this and lost all her strength. She suddenly felt hopeless. She was scared, even more scared than when she was in the desert. She was a princess. The Bai family, who had given her limitless glory, must not go bankrupt. She still wanted to buy Louis, Givenchy, and many other luxury goods. No, absolutely not, young Masterly. Young Masterly, please help me. Since I was by your side in the past. No, since we were classmates, please help me put in a good word. Bai Shui grabbed Mu Lichuan's wrist almost instantly, but he flung her hand away. His deep eyes were filled with a cold light as he looked at her with narrowed eyes and said, "Then I really don't have the heart to do it. Firstly, I want you to end up in a miserable state more than she does. Secondly, I'm a henpecked husband. My family's fiancé has the final say in everything." Chapter 2864. When everything was settled, those who deserved it would be punished. Wang Yu's retribution came the fastest, as Luo Qingshun became the successor of the Luo family. Wang's company stocks kept falling, almost reaching a critical point. No matter what Wang Yu's father did, he could not stabilize the stock. In less than a month, Wang's company was officially declared bankrupt. Wang Yu never appeared in school again, and the entire Wang family disappeared from the business circle. After her was Bai Shui. The Bai family was originally in the jewelry industry, and this industry required a lot of connections. As long as there was a problem with one of the links, the entire company was likely to fall into a crisis. However, in just one night, this thing that was like a production line had problems with several mitigating mechanisms. Bai Shui's mother divorced her father a long time ago, and she was an out-and-out strong woman. Originally, she tried to stabilize the situation, but because she was too competitive, it went out of control. Not only did the company go bankrupt, but it was also going to be auctioned. At the same time, the Bai family's house and all of Bai Shui's luxury goods would be auctioned off. In the blink of an eye, this princess who had been living like a princess was left with nothing. On her last day at school, no one was willing to approach her. Even the girls that she usually played with the best kept a distance from her. She was alone, wearing a dirty sweater and carrying her school bag, walking in the wind and snow. Suddenly, she could not hold back her emotions and sat on the ground, crying. Who should she blame? Blame Luo Qingshun, blame Gu Zhu, or blame Wang Yu? She did not know. She only knew that from today onwards, she was no longer a princess. As for Gu Zhu, compared to Wang Yu and Bai Shui, her ending was definitely worse. After all, Gu Zhu had been targeting her from the beginning. There was no love or hate. It was purely targeting her. Since the other party was so ruthless, Luo Qingshun did not have to be soft-hearted. The Gu family was not a particularly wealthy aristocrat. His father was a nouveau riche and did not have a company or shares. However, it was hard to get hold of such a person's weakness when he was just sitting there eating his money. But because of this kind of person's unstable temperament, once they became rich, their desires would become more abundant. His father had once violated a girl in a bar. That girl had severe depression and eventually committed suicide by hanging. At that time, the bar they were in was Muse, but because Muse's surveillance cameras were never open to the public, and because of the Luo family status in a city, even the police didn't dare to say anything. In addition, one was a rich man, while the other was just an ordinary person. Under the protection of the officials, many things were turned a blind eye. In the end, Gu Zhu's father paid some money and the matter was settled. The girl's family filed an appeal, but in the end, they couldn't even afford the lawyer's fees. They could only use an ordinary lawyer. The result was obvious. The girl had died in vain. Luo Qingshun found the girl's family, found the best lawyer for them, and provided the most important surveillance tape in the case. In the end, Gu Zhu's father couldn't escape the punishment of the law. Everyone knew that her father was such a filthy person, so they naturally distanced themselves from her. No one called her queen anymore, and no one wanted to be her friend anymore. Who should she blame? Luo Qingshun? Her father? She didn't know. She only knew that her life was over. 1 month later, Luo Qingshun and Mu Lichuan's engagement ceremony was held. Many people attended the ceremony. Chapter 2865. A pure white wedding dress, beautiful music, and romantic scenes. Everything seemed so perfect. She wore a snow-white dress with a faint smile on the corner of her mouth. Her face was reflected in the mirror. Her fair skin was pure yet adorable. Li Xiu stood beside her and couldn't help but exclaim, "Wow, Qingshun, your identity really surprised me." Surprised? Luo Qingshan chuckled. Looking at the chubby girl in the dress, she felt inexplicably funny. Chubby, very cute. A kind-hearted person would always find her cute at some point. Of course. You don't know, I almost fainted when I first found out about this. Li Xiu looked at her seriously and said, "You also know that fat people have bad hearts." PFFF. Luo Qingshan pursed her lips and smiled. "Why are you joking? I'm telling the truth, okay." Li Xiu pouted and said, "You have such a noble identity. Why didn't you use it earlier?" When she was still in the mathematics department, she was bullied by Guju every day. Why didn't she say her identity at that time? Instead, she had to suffer so many grievances for no reason. Everyone comes to this world with different missions. Luo Qingshan looked at Li Xiu meaningfully and said, "Big families have things that big families should do. Many times, they can't help themselves. If it weren't for the desert trip, the old man was afraid that she would die before she became the heir. Her identity as the heir might not have come so quickly. Oh, what's the point of talking about principles on a happy day?" Li Xiu waved her hand and said, "Anyway, Miss Luo Qingshan only has happiness left." Yes. Luo Qingshan pursed her lips and nodded. Only happiness is left. Now, she seemed to be very relaxed, because when every plane reached this stage, it was already the end of the story. When all the bad people got the punishment they deserved, when she and her loved one held each other's hands tightly and walked to the pure white auditorium, when they vowed to accompany each other forever, she would only worry that this life was too short and would never have a change of heart. During the engagement ceremony, the pastor asked the question, they made a promise to each other, exchanged engagement rings, and he kissed her on the forehead. She gently closed her eyes and listened to him say, "I love you." She listened to the system's final notification. Ding! Affection has increased by 10. Mission completion rate is now 100%. Congratulations, host, for completing the mission. Congratulations, host, for living a happy life. Mr. Mu Lichuan, please take care of my life. She slowly raised her eyes and looked at Mu Lichuan, who had a doting look in his eyes. Her lips curled into a big smile. "Miss Luo Qingshan, I will hold your hand for the rest of my life. I won't let go no matter what." Mu Lichuan gently raised his right hand and patted her little head. "Also, you'll always be a little princess. Princess, you're very proud of you. Of you, of you, of you, of you. You'll become pampered if you keep a pet. Yes, you have the right to be delicate." "All right." Luo Qingshan nodded and said, "Since you're so good at saying sweet nothings, I'll give you a reward." Under the warm sun, she tiptoed and kissed him on the lips. In the next second, his right hand hooked around her waist. He took the initiative and kissed her deeply. Chapter 2866. And among the people present, there seemed to be some who weren't that happy. Moreover, there weren't just one or two unhappy people. "Why did you have to come?" In the corner, Lan Ting glanced at Su Chan beside her, and a faint light flashed in her eyes. Actually, perhaps at some point, she knew the answer in her heart. But this answer made her feel incomparably painful, so she was unwilling to admit it. However, she wanted to ask. She wanted to hear it from Su Chan personally, because as long as he didn't answer, she could pretend that it wasn't what she imagined at all. She could run away, and run away forever. But this time, Su Chan didn't run away anymore. He sighed deeply and said, "Do you really want to know?" Lan Ting bit her lips and looked at his incomparably focused gaze on Luo Qingshan. Her heart ached. She had worked so hard, and she had loved for so many years, from Qingyu to Luo Qingshan. But in Su Chen's heart, she had never had a place, not even for a moment. I love her." Before Lan Ting finished speaking, Su Chen gave her an answer. This answer wasn't just for Lan Ting, but also for himself. At first, he just thought that he couldn't let her go, because when he hurt someone, that person would leave an even more indelible mark in his heart. He kept running away, telling himself that he couldn't let her go because he felt guilty towards her. But every night, he would always dream of the time he spent with her. From the first time they met in America, to knowing each other, to falling in love. Every time she was sick, he was by her side, because she was always alone, as if she didn't have parents or the love of her family. Now that he thought of this, he couldn't help but laugh foolishly. How could she not have the love of her family? Her status was more honorable than anyone else's. If he didn't love her, the guilt in his heart would continue to decrease, because she had true love and had such an enviable family. But when the scene of them spending the rest of their lives together appeared in front of him, he could deeply feel the suffocating heartache. Su-chan. Lan Ting trembled all over. She naturally didn't expect Su-chan to say this at Luo Qingchan's wedding. In her eyes, Su-chan was the kind of person who would keep everything to himself. If it wasn't for the fact that he really couldn't control himself, he wouldn't have said it. What should we do? Su-chan slowly raised his eyes. His tall and straight figure seemed so desolate at this moment. His beautiful eyes were bloodshot, and there was a faint mist in them as he looked ahead and muttered, "What should I do? What can I do?" Su-chan calmed down. Lan Ting reached out and grabbed his sleeve. "Don't be like this, you're not that kind of person. Then what kind of person should I be?" He laughed at himself foolishly and said, "Lan Ting, can I snatch the marriage?" In the end, Su-chan didn't snatch the bride, because Lan Ting grabbed his hand tightly and said something that hurt him to the bone. "Don't go. You don't deserve her." Lan Ting knew very well what to say to Su-chan when she had lost her rationality, would be able to touch her heart the most. That was to hurt him. The more she hurt him, the more she could make him retreat. Chapter 2867. The Luo Qingshan of today was no longer the helpless Luo Qingshan in America who knew that he was by her side, even when she was sick. She was the daughter of the richest man in the country, Mu Lichuan's fiancée. She was a girl who was doted on by thousands of people. She was so dazzling. Actually, she did not belong to him for a long time. From the moment he knew that Qingyu's heart was not with her, from the moment he broke up with her, she did not belong to him anymore. But what could he do? He could not let her go. At the wedding, there was another girl who could not let go other than Su-chan. She was Lan Ji. The difference between her and Su-chan was that she was a person who kept her thoughts in her heart more than he did. She wished them well and looked at them from afar. It was like listening to a song you liked quietly while the person you liked looked at you from afar. After Luo Qingshan and Mu Lichuan got engaged, the school put up a banner for them, probably to congratulate them on their marriage. To be honest, it was quite rustic. She was still desk mate with Lan Ji, and Lan Ji even prepared 2 custom-made dolls for her. One was Mu Lichuan, and the other was her. They looked so compatible in their wedding gowns. At that moment, Luo Qingshan admired people like Lan Ji. She was the kind of person who would never cross the line as long as she knew that she could not, no matter how much she liked it. "Thank you, Lan Ji." Luo Qingshan shook the dolls lightly. "They're very cute. You must be happy." Lan Ji smiled. "Let me see the ending of the prince and princess in the fairy tale." "A prince and princess?" "Yes." After she got engaged with Mu Lichuan, the whole school said that their love was a fairy tale. It was a beautiful, romantic, and dreamy fairy tale. After the desert incident, the photography department was silent for a while and did not go anywhere to shoot. They had accumulated a lot of funds for the new semester, and the form teacher decided to bring everyone to the Alps. They could also go to Europe to shoot some different scenery. There were still many students who signed up, but the quota was limited and was decided by drawing lots. Mu Lichuan and Luo Qingshan were lucky to draw lots, but Lan Ji did not. "Qingshan, you must take more photos." Lan Ji pouted and looked at her with a pitiful expression. "Although I may have a chance to go in the future, I'm afraid there won't be such a good chance." Luo Qingshan knew that Lan Ji wanted to go, since she had just taken over the role of the heir. She was already extremely busy with her studies and work, so she didn't have the time to go to the Alps. Moreover, after the last trip to the desert, the old man was extremely concerned about where she was going. Last time it was the desert. This time it was the snow mountain. In the old man's eyes, both places were equally dangerous. She knew in her heart that the old man would most likely not let her go. "Yawn. Miss Lan Ji, do you really want to go so badly?" Luo Qingshan sniffled, pursing her lips into a smile. "I can help you. Do you have a cold?" Lan Ji thought for a while and shook her head lightly. "It's not good to go through the back door. Although I know it may be because of you, there will definitely be gossip. Let's forget about it. For students who liked photography, they naturally wanted to go with such a good opportunity. If Luo Qingshun opened the back door for her, the other students would definitely mind even if they didn't say anything. Chapter 2868. Huh. Lanji froze for a second, a shocked expression flashing past her eyes. She looked at her and said, "Why you want me to go?" "Yes." Luo Qingshun nodded casually and said, "You can go if you want to. Actually, I don't want to go that much." But Lanji thought about it and rejected her in the end. "But young Masterly will be going. You two can also take this opportunity to go on your honeymoon. It's killing two birds with one stone. Now we spend almost 20 of the 24 hours in a day together." Luo Qingshun pursed her lips and said with a smile, "After being together for such a long time, we'll probably get tired of each other." In the next second, a voice as cold as water entered her ears. A familiar figure suddenly appeared behind her, with a unique aura. "It's impossible for us to get tired of each other." Mu Lichuan caressed her head lovingly and said, "Because only you'll get tired of me. I won't get tired of you." "Mu Lichuan, you're eavesdropping on me." Luo Qingshun stood up and turned around, with her hands on her hips. "How can you be so sneaky? How can you be considered a gentleman? Open and above board." Mu Lichuan raised his right hand and pinched her nose gently. "You two were too engrossed in talking." Cough, cough. Lanji's lips twitched, and she looked at them. "See, we haven't even gone to the snow mountain, and you're already showing off your love. You should go by yourself. What if one day, without seeing each other feels like 3 years? Wouldn't I become a sinner?" Some words may sound very relaxed when spoken, but no one knew the turbulent waves in the depths of her heart. In this life, no one would know. "It's all right, you can go." Mu Lichuan seemed to be talking to Lanji, but his eyes were on Luo Qingshun from the beginning. He smiled faintly and said, "Firstly, she should be very busy recently and doesn't have time. Secondly, I'm worried about her going." There was no such thing as an absolutely safe place for photography. It was like how many people died in the Alps every year. Even though it had been so long since the incident in the desert, he would still dream of that scene sometimes. He had almost failed to save her. So from then on, he had told himself that, from now on, no matter how attractive the place was, as long as it was dangerous, he would not let her go. "Really? Can I really go?" Lanji raised her eyes slowly. She knew that Mu Lichuan's gaze was on Luo Qingshun, but she still stared deeply into his eyes. This young man was really good-looking. She would never get tired of looking at him. "Go," Mu Lichuan replied calmly. "But can you lend your deskmate to me for a while? I'll bring her here after I'm done brewing the cold medicine." I'm not drinking. I'll be sleepy after drinking." Luo Qingshun shook her head coquettishly, but she realized that Mu Lichuan had already pulled her to his side. "You must drink it." He pulled her to sit next to him and carefully measured the temperature of the cup with his hand. "It's been 2 days, and it's still not done yet. I'll be worried if you don't drink it." "All right." Luo Qingshun closed her eyes, and Gulu drank the medicine. The sunlight outside the window shone on their faces. He put the coat that he had prepared earlier on her. Lanji looked at this scene, and her eyes turned red unconsciously. Everything was so beautiful. The young man she loved so much had a girl he loved so much. Chapter 2869. The trip to the Alps was scheduled for 3 days later. Luo Qingshun was busy with school and work at the same time. She was overwhelmed. She only found out about Mu Lichuan's illness the next day when she realized that he didn't come to school. She took the afternoon off and bought a bowl of abalone and sea cucumber porridge from the most famous porridge shop in the Eastgate. Not to mention the taste, the appearance of the porridge was definitely classy. It wasn't cheap either. A small bowl of porridge cost almost 150 yuan. It took an hour for her to return to the villa. Luo Qingshun parked her car in the garage and walked to Mu Lichuan's villa. To put it simply, it was her neighbor. A few seconds after she pressed the doorbell, the butler opened the door. "Miss Luo." The butler felt that it wasn't right to call her that, so he quickly corrected himself. "Young mistress. It's just a form of address." Luo Qingshan smiled faintly and asked, "Is Li Chuan home?" "Yes," the butler replied respectfully. "Young master is resting on the second floor." "Has his fever gone down?" "It's gone down after he took his medicine." "I'll go up and take a look." Luo Qingshan pursed her lips and smiled. "Butler, you don't have to worry about me." "Yes, young mistress. Young master will be very happy to know that you're here." Luo Qingshan's eyebrows twitched slightly. She smiled faintly and walked upstairs. She had an impression of the Mu family's butler. She had seen him many times when she was young. He had been the butler for many years. On the third floor, there was a wooden plaque hanging on the door of the southernmost room. The word Li was written on it. When she opened the door, she could smell the faint scent of mint and vanilla. If she had to describe it, it was probably the diffused scent of Mu Li Chuan. It smelled especially good. Young Master Mu Li Chuan. Luo Qingshan put the porridge down and raised her right hand to turn on the lights. Little did she know that in the next second, she had already fallen into a warm embrace. "Why did you come looking for me?" Mu Li Chuan buried his head in her curly hair and smiled gently. "Did you miss me?" "Yes." She nodded obediently. "I heard that you were sick, but you didn't tell me." She was probably used to him sticking to her like this. As long as there were only the two of them, he especially liked to hug her. It was as if hugging her would give him a sense of security. Cough, cough. Mu Li Chuan coughed softly and let go of her gently. He pinched her little nose and said, "You must have been infected by a certain lazy cat." She wanted to explain, but in the end, she could only purse her lips and say with a red face, "You can't blame me for this. You took the initiative." "All right." Mu Li Chuan also liked to kiss her when she was sick. No matter what she said, he wouldn't listen. Now, he was finally infected by her. Little did she know that as soon as she finished speaking, Mu Li Chuan quickly moved closer to her. After a light peck on her lips, he immediately moved away and said, "I didn't say that I wasn't the one who initiated it." "Humph," she snorted proudly. "I bought you some porridge. Drink it while it's hot." "All right. I'll go pack the things you need for your trip to Europe." "All right. You haven't told me what you need to bring." Ever since they got engaged, Mu Li Chuan had changed a lot. Chapter 2870. She could completely feel his love for her. It was a kind of sick love that was close to the point of being sick. It was as if all the love he had in his life was given to her. "I'll use whatever you put in." Mu Li Chuan picked up the abalone porridge on his right and leaned against the sofa. He looked at her gently and said, "Come and lean on me when you're tired. I'll watch that romantic drama with you." Luo Qingshan stuck her tongue out and said, "I won't put anything in. Let's see what you're going to do about it." Sigh. Mu Li Chuan sighed softly and said, "Then I'll probably freeze to death on the snow mountain." "You're murdering your own husband. Do you have another little brother?" "Where did this little brother come from?" Luo Qingshan saw that he was pretending to be jealous and said with pursed lips, "The entire school knows that I am your Mu Li Chuan's fiancé, but all the men hide far away when they see me. Where can I find this little big brother?" Speaking of this, she felt extremely awkward. A few days ago, when she was passing by the basketball court, a basketball unexpectedly fell by her feet. As a result, the people on the basketball court dodged as if they had seen a plague. No one dared to pick up the basketball. At that moment, Luo Qingshan felt as if a flock of crows flew over her head. It was so awkward. It seems like they know their place. Mu Li Chuan seemed to have a good appetite. After eating 2 mouthfuls of porridge, he said, "But I've seen Su Chan sneaking glances at you many times. It seems like he still has feelings for you." "What?" "Mr. Mu Li Chuan, are you jealous?" Luo Qingshan put down the luggage in her hands and sat beside him. "TSK, TSK. Young Master Li, you're quite cute when you're jealous." Luo Qingshan thought that he would deny it arrogantly, but she didn't expect him to admit it without hesitation. "Of course I'm jealous." Mu Li Chuan put down the porridge in his hands and hugged her. "Did you love him a lot back then?" Actually, he knew the story between them, and he knew it in detail. He even knew about the American hero who saved the damsel in distress. He knew that she must only love him with all her heart now, but he was still jealous of the old Su Chan. After all, he had her previous love. Such jealousy sounded absurd and even unreasonable. But he was such a person. Luo Qingshun closed her eyes. A faint light flashed through her eyes. I have never loved him. The person who loved Su Chun was the original owner, not her. Therefore, she was not lying. Therefore, she was telling the truth. Luo Qingshun, oh Luo Qingshun. Mu Lichuan shook his head helplessly and chuckled. Just a simple sentence from you makes me happy. So emotional. Luo Qingshun nodded slightly and looked at him with a smile. Then you are very happy, because in this life, that girl called Luo Qingshun will always be by your side. Okay, it was definitely a happy and satisfying thing to be able to take a nap in the lazy afternoon. On the day that Mu Lichuan left City A, Luo Qingshun personally drove him home. Although he hadn't fully recovered from his cold, he was almost fully recovered. Chapter 2871. She looked at Lan Ji's excited expression and her eyes trembled slightly. A few seconds later, she said, okay, actually, compared to Mu Lichuan, although she wasn't as possessive as him, she wasn't willing to hand him over to anyone. She didn't need anyone to look after him for her, because she knew that no one could get close to Mu Lichuan. Wait for me to come back. Mu Lichuan caressed her head softly and said, you have to call me every day. Take care of yourself and don't get sick. I have something on my mind, so I won't be gone for too long. I'll be away for half a month. Luo Qingshun pursed her lips and said, are you planning to come back early? If I miss you too much and can't help it, I might come back. Mu Lichuan narrowed his eyes, his starry eyes filled with affection. It was a kind of affection that even people who didn't know about their relationship could see from Mu Lichuan's eyes. Cough, cough. You have to keep your promise. Luo Qingshun cleared her throat and said, don't be gone for too long. I've put the medicine in the innermost part of the black bag. You haven't recovered from your cold, so remember to take your medicine on time. Okay. He lifted his right hand slightly and brushed away the stray hair in front of her forehead. I don't want to go anymore. Why? Are you not feeling well? No. Mu Lichuan shook his head softly and said, I can't bear to leave you. Then go. I know you want to go. Luo Qingshun rolled her eyes and said, do you love photography or me? You don't hesitate at all? No. Photography is just another hobby for me. Mu Lichuan's eyebrows moved slightly and a smile appeared on his lips. But without you, what will happen? Luo Qingshun's eyes lit up and anticipation flashed in her clear eyes. Actually, she still wanted to hear him say some words of love. Although they had only been apart for half a month, the feeling of parting was not that happy. Besides, she had known Mu Lichuan for so long. Whether they were together or not, he had never left her side for such a long time. Even though she didn't say it out loud, only she knew how much she couldn't bear to part with him. I'll tell you when I'm back. Mu Lichuan smiled playfully. That way, you'll have more time to think about me. Wow. Luo Qingshun thought that she would be able to hear it, but Mu Lichuan had delayed it. She put her hands on her hips and said, this is too much. Be good. He looked at the time and said, hurry up and go back. There's going to be a traffic jam soon. All right. Tell me you're safe when you arrive. Okay, go ahead. She waved at him and walked out of the airport. She felt inexplicably sad, but she couldn't tell why. Perhaps it was because she was used to being pampered by Mu Lichuan that she couldn't get used to the fact that he was no longer by her side. However, this feeling only lasted for a moment. On the way back, Mu Lichuan didn't forget to text her before he boarded the plane. Miss you, miss you, miss you. Mu Lichuan, why don't I just not go and not have the plane come? Mu Lichuan, have you arrived? Be careful on the road. Mu Lichuan, I'm on the plane. Mu Lichuan, I love you, Luo Qingshun. Mu Lichuan. It was probably because of Mu Lichuan's warm messages that swept away the sadness in her heart. No matter where he went, he was a young man who would affect people's thoughts. Chapter 2872. Did the Snow White in the fairy tale really end up with the prince? Perhaps. Many people didn't know that the prince's heart might have fluttered. For the first 7 days of Mu Lichuan's trip to Europe, he called her every day. He even sent her many photos, including those of the snow mountain. On the 8th day, there was no news from him. Luo Qingshun found it strange. She contacted Longi directly, but Longi didn't give her any response. It was only after 4 days that she found out that they had encountered an avalanche. Fortunately, they were in a safe area, and the avalanche only trapped them on the snow mountain for 3 days. During those 3 days, they lost contact with the outside world and didn't receive any news. It was only when they came down from the snow mountain and were sent to the hospital by the ambulance that Luo Qingshun contacted Mu Lichuan. But he seemed to be a little colder. It was a coldness that Luo Qingshun could hear when he said, "Hello. I heard that you had an accident on the snow mountain. Are you feeling better now?" The connection was very good. She could even hear his heavy breathing and the surrounding noises. "Yes," he replied faintly. "I'm fine. Longi was injured when she tried to save me. Is she okay?" Luo Qingshun's heart trembled. "Is she in the hospital now?" "Yes," Mu Lichuan said in a low voice. "I'll go and see her first. We'll talk later." Luo Qingshun pursed her lips. "Okay. If there's anything, you can call me." "Yes," he replied faintly. "I'm hanging up." In the next second, there was a beeping sound from the other end of the phone. She didn't even have the time to say goodbye before Mu Lichuan hung up. At that moment, she felt an inexplicable panic in her heart. It was a kind of panic that she had never felt in all the planes she had been in for so long. This was different from life and death. This was different from parting. This was different from the panic of death. This panic was a kind of trembling in the depths of her heart. She was afraid that because she didn't go on this trip to the snow mountain, she would lose Mu Lichuan. For the next 3 days, she texted him almost every day. Mu Lichuan would always reply to her calls, but he would only say a few words. He never called her again, not even once. She had no choice but to call him. "I'm busy. What's up?" "Lichuan, you should go home tonight. You don't have to accompany me here." Mu Lichuan's voice was cold, but Longi's voice was clear. Luo Qingshun's hand trembled, and the phone fell on the table. The next second, she quickly hung up and clenched her trembling hands tightly. She was not a person who would run away, but her emotions surged into her heart too quickly, so quickly that her eyes turned red. Hiss! Something seemed to run past the window, interrupting her train of thought. Meow! She wanted to open the window to take a look, but when she heard the cat's meow, she put her hand back. Her mind was in chaos. She already had an answer in her heart, but she didn't dare to believe it. If a person liked another person, perhaps they could hide it well enough that the other person wouldn't know. But if a person didn't like another person, that person would definitely know. "System, are you there? Can I ask you a question?" "Please ask." If I'm saying if after completing the mission, if the male lead's affection for me decreases, will there be a notification? Chapter 2873. Luo Qingshun closed her eyes. She seemed to be able to feel the strong beating of her heart and the endless disappointment in her heart. No, Mu Lichuan would not have a change of heart. She did not believe it. This was something that she could not believe no matter how much time had passed. In the next second, she slowly picked up the phone and said, "Help me book a ticket to Europe." Luo Qingshun was very fast. She was not the kind of person who would run away. Since it was already confirmed, she had to at least see it with her own eyes and hear it with her own ears. If Mu Lichuan did not come back, then she would go and find him. He was her fiancé. Why would her fiancé not believe her? Besides, he was someone who loved her so deeply at 100,000 feet in the sky. The blue sky and white clouds were glaring, but it could not shine into her heart. After she got off the plane, her phone rang with the news from her assistant. Most of the people in the hospital that Mu Lichuan and his classmates were in had already been discharged and went to Zurich. There were only a few students left in the hospital. 2 of them were Longi and Mu Lichuan. This news made Luo Qingshun feel puzzled. How badly was Longi injured that she could not be discharged after staying in the hospital for so many days? But that day, when she heard her voice on the phone, she did not sound so weak. "Hello, Mississippi Missland's ward is 0723 on the 7th floor. The nurse said, "You can take the elevator to the innermost ward on the 7th floor. "Thank you." They were speaking in English. Fortunately, after going through so many worlds, her English had reached a very high level. Even if the nurse here spoke in English with an accent, she could understand it in one go. As the elevator went up, she heard a ding sound. The moment she stepped out of the elevator, she dialed Mu Lichuan's number. The phone rang for a long time before she heard Mu Lichuan's lazy and indifferent voice say, "Hello. Hello. Do you have time? Can we talk?" Luo Qingshan walked step by step towards Lan Ji's ward. It was not that she had to go to Lan Ji's ward and not Mu Lichuan's, but it was because Mu Lichuan had already settled the discharge procedures. She could only go to Lan Ji. She didn't know why, but she felt that this moment was so funny. Lan Ji's promise to her seemed to echo in her ears. "I'll help you look after Mu Lichuan. I won't let any foreign lady seduce him." But what was the result? It was as if Mu Lichuan had turned into a different person on the phone. Every single word that he said was enough to make one's heart skip a beat. Standing outside room 0723, she heard the conversation between Mu Lichuan and Lan Ji. "Cough, cough. If you don't want to take the medicine, can you eat the cake first?" Lan Ji pouted and looked at Mu Lichuan coquettishly. "I'm afraid of bitterness." "No." Mu Lichuan rejected her immediately. "You have to take the medicine. I'll worry about you if you do this. But I just want to see you worry about me." In the next second, Lan Ji reached out and grabbed Mu Lichuan's arm. "Lichuan, how are we going to tell Qingshan about this? I don't want to hurt her." Silence, silence, and silence. Luo Qingshan, who was standing outside the door, took a deep breath, but she didn't dare to release it. She was afraid that she wouldn't be able to control her emotions. She was afraid that she wouldn't be able to face Mu Lichuan and Lan Ji in the most rational way. Of course, the most important thing was Chapter 2874. "Don't worry, I'll talk to her." After some time, Mu Lichuan's cold voice slowly rang through the air. Every single word of his pierced through her heart and tore at her nerves. "Do you think we can still be friends?" Lan Ji nodded slightly, looking at Mu Lichuan. "Will she not forgive me?" Before Mu Lichuan could give her an answer, there was a creak. Luo Qingshan pushed the door open slowly, looking at Lan Ji calmly. "She won't forgive you." Lan Ji's eyes widened, as if she was shocked. She immediately exclaimed, "Qingshan, Qingshan, why are you here? Why can't I be here?" Luo Qingshan gave a cold snort before saying with a smile, "Am I disturbing you?" About 10 seconds after she entered the room, her gaze finally landed on Mu Lichuan. He was wearing a blue and white sweater, holding a hot cup of water and medicine in his hands. Luo Qingshan could not see his eyes clearly, but she could feel the coldness in his eyes. It was an extremely unfamiliar coldness, as if her appearance had really disturbed him. "Why aren't you saying anything?" Luo Qingshan put her hands in the pockets of her red coat, looking at Mu Lichuan calmly. "Didn't you say that you'll talk to me?" He narrowed his eyes, looking at Lan Ji, but the words that came out of his mouth were for her. "Yes. Let's talk outside. Lan Ji needs to rest." "Io." Luo Qingshan tightly clenched her fists in her pocket and bit her lip as she said, "This. You're this impatient to protect your new love?" She did not dare to stutter. She repeated it to herself in her heart again and again. Even if she had to hold on, she had to bury all her emotions in the bottom of her heart. She could not stutter. She had to finish everything in one sentence. But no one could understand how difficult it was for her to do this. It was as if everything she had experienced before was not as difficult as this moment. She was on the verge of an emotional breakdown, but she used all her strength to remain calm. And this calmness was facing the people he cared about the most. "Let's talk outside." Mu Lichuan turned away and walked past her. Luo Qingshan took another deep breath, glancing at Lan Ji before she left the ward. She had never experienced such a scene before. Originally, she felt such a scene from the original owner, but she didn't expect that her body would actually hurt so much in the long corridor downstairs of the hospital. It was snowing lightly. Luo Qingshan wasn't wearing much. She was just wearing a thin jacket. However, Mu Lichuan did not even say a word of concern. "Say it." Luo Qingshan looked at him, and there seemed to be no light in those deep ink-like eyes. From meeting her to knowing each other, from loving each other to staying together, she had never seen such a look in his eyes, no matter which segment they were in. Cold, resolute, unfamiliar, unlove is. That was a gaze that did not love. I've had a change of heart, Mu Li Chuan said calmly, his every word emotionless. He did not even make any excuses, nor did he go through the process. He just said the result directly. He. Luo Qing Chun gave 5 cold laughs before looking into his eyes. Look into my eyes, and I'll believe you. Chapter 2875. In the past, his gaze was always on her. But now, he did not even look at her. There were only 2 possibilities. One was that he did not dare to look at her, and the other was that he was unwilling to look at her. She wanted to give herself a reason. Even if she failed the mission, even if she had to give up, she had to give herself a reason. Did Mu Li Chuan really have a change of heart like he said? Or did he have a reason that he had no choice but to do this? A person's eyes would not lie. He looked straight in her eyes and swore she would never forget. She would never forget the light reflected in those eyes. In the next second, Mu Li Chuan glanced sideways, and his deep eyes landed on her. He looked at her eyes and said softly, I don't love you anymore. At this moment, Luo Qingshan felt her mind go blank. She could feel that her hands in her pockets were trembling uncontrollably, and her clear eyes were instantly covered with a layer of mist. You? She bit her lips and said with a choked voice, Say it again. Some people just like to seek death. They like to hear cruel words over and over again. Actually, they were not seeking death, but they just hoped that what they said the last time was not the truth. Maybe a miracle would happen when they said it again. Perhaps he wouldn't have said those words. Mu Li Chuan swallowed his saliva, and his long and thick eyelashes fluttered slightly. I don't love you anymore, Luo Qingshan. The snow in the sky seemed to be getting heavier and heavier. Snowflakes fell on her hair, her eyelashes, and her clothes. They landed in her eyes, and the next second, she rubbed her eyes and said, The snow got into my eyes. Drop by drop, her tears fell down like pearls from a broken necklace. The emotions that she held on to and buried deep in her heart exploded at this moment. You can go back first. Mu Li Chuan looked away and said, Lan Ji is alone in the ward. I'm worried. With that said, he did not say anything else and turned to walk towards the hospital building. Luo Qingshan froze and chased after him almost instantly, grabbing his wrist. The snow was getting heavier and heavier. It was as if the heavens were mourning her emotional breakdown at this moment. Mu Li Chuan stopped in his tracks, but he didn't turn around. A few seconds later, Luo Qingshan's eyes turned red. She bit her lips and asked in a choked voice, Why but why? She thought she would never do such a thing in her entire life. She thought that if a person didn't like her, no matter who it was, she could decisively turn around. She thought she would never be able to hold on to a man who had a change of heart. But everyone had a weakness. Everyone would lose to love. It was just a matter of who lost more or less. Why would you ask a man who has changed his mind such a question? Mu Li Chuan lifted his right hand gently and broke free from her grip. If I don't love you, then I don't love you. You're so smart, so you should know that. These are the last words he said to her in this place. He didn't turn his head back. He didn't even look at her. Luo Qingshan watched him walk into the hospital building. That was the only familiar figure in this unfamiliar city. The promise he made to her at the engagement ceremony was still ringing in her ears. But in the blink of an eye, it had only been a few months, and he was telling her that she didn't love him anymore. What exactly happened between Lan Ji and him in the mountains? What exactly happened? Chapter 2876. Sometimes, liking someone was just a momentary feeling. Those grand reasons were just excuses. It was snowing heavily, and she could not control her emotions at all. Her tears fell uncontrollably. She squatted down slowly and buried her head between her arms. It was as if she could only find a momentary sense of security by doing this. At that time, at the entrance of the hospital, she was sobbing softly, as if she wanted to say to Mu Li Chuan, but also to herself, Mu Li Chuan, how do you know that if danger comes, I won't risk my life to save you? How did he know? How did he know that he wouldn't? Did she fall in love with someone else just because he saved her life once? How much of a failure was she? When she left the city, she called Mu Lichuan 3 times. The first 2 calls did not go through, and the third one was hung up. She actually wanted to stay. Just like what many girls would do, she kept asking him questions, asking for the reason and the result. She always hoped that the person who had a change of heart would give her another chance and come back to her side. She stayed alone in a hotel in a foreign country for 7 days. She did not dare to turn off her phone for even a moment. She hoped and waited for that young man to call her. Then he would say to her, "Everything is a misunderstanding. Miss Luo Qingshun, let's go home." But in the end, she did not receive that call. When she returned to a city, she heard that Mu Lichuan had already brought Lanji back. They even went back to school for 2 days. Her classmates all knew that Lanji had moved her seat to Mu Lichuan's side. She did not go back to school. Instead, she asked Li Xiu to go to her faculty to see if it was true. Her classmates might lie to her, but Li Xiu, her chubby little girl, would never lie to her. When she received Li Xiu's message and confirmed the truth, she actually smiled. It was a self-mocking smile. She heard that Lanji wanted to travel and take photos of different places. Mu Lichuan was worried that she would be alone, so he accompanied her. When she found out about this, they had already left for Bali. At a food stall in the middle of the night, Luo Qingshun ordered 3 boxes of beer. Li Xiu sat beside her and apologized profusely. It was just that she could already drink, but she naturally couldn't compare with herself. "Qingshun, why don't you get drunk?" Li Xiu shook the wine bottle and said, "Don't be sad. There are millions of good men in the world. If we can't find one, we can change every day." Luo Qingshun sneered. She raised her eyes slightly so that tears would not fall from her eyes. She numbly picked up the bottle of wine on the table and was about to drink it all the way to the end. Someone snatched her bottle of wine and drank it for her. In today's society, there are all kinds of robberies. Luo Qingshun snorted and said, "There are even robberies." Actually, she didn't care at all. She didn't even intend to raise her head to see who it was. This was because she knew that this person couldn't be Mu Lichuan. "Stop drinking." It was indeed a familiar voice, but this familiarity seemed a little distant. "Professor Su." Luo Qingshun laughed coldly and said, "You haven't moved from the beach yet. Why are you so nosy?" Luo Qingshun. Su Chun sat down opposite her and looked at her with a self-mocking smile. "When we first separated, were you like this?" Luo Qingshun didn't say anything. Su Chun answered himself. Chapter 2877. Su Chun, oh, Su Chun. Luo Qingshun picked up another bottle of wine from the table and shook it lightly. She narrowed her eyes slightly and said, "You're the one who can see the most clearly now." When she first came to this world, she thought that Su Chun was a scumbag. Now, it seemed like Mu Lichuan was nothing compared to him. She probably didn't have the self-esteem to verify the truth or ask shamelessly about a change of heart. In the past, she had a saying in her heart. This saying was called believe. After experiencing more than 40 worlds and thousands of years of time, she should believe in a young man she loved no matter when and where. Even if she hit a wall and was covered in blood, she should do it regardless of everything. But when the so-called no happened in front of her, she realized that she couldn't do it. She couldn't do it. When Mu Lichuan held another girl's hand, she couldn't do it. She couldn't rush forward to ask for an answer. Sometimes self-esteem was worthless, but sometimes it was priceless. Actually, it wasn't that she didn't work hard. Even when she was drinking alone on the streets, she was paying attention to Mu Lichuan's movements. She even sent people to follow him wherever he went. However, each piece of news that reached her ears was more heartbreaking than the last. Mu Lichuan and Lan Ji traveled to Andorra, France, England, Switzerland, from the northern hemisphere to the southern hemisphere. They went to many places and probably took many photos. After all, they both liked photography. It seemed like they were a good match. "If you want to get drunk, I can accompany you." Su Chen looked at her eyes, and a faint light flashed in his eyes. He said softly, "But can you not be so sad because of him?" Luo Qingshun snorted coldly and didn't respond. Instead, she drank the wine in her hand and said, "Why can't I be sad? You don't understand at all." "Why don't I understand?" Su Chun gritted his teeth, his eyes full of unwillingness. He opened the bottle of wine that he had snatched from Luo Qingshun and gulped it down. He said, "Weren't you very carefree when you left me? He found a new lover in the blink of an eye. Since you can treat me like this, why can't he?" "Professor Su, don't you understand the obvious answer?" Luo Qingshun put down the bottle and glanced sideways at Su Chun. Under the moonlight, her slightly flushed face and slightly tipsy appearance were so charming. Looking at her, Su Chin's heart started to beat faster. In fact, he understood his feelings for Luo Qingshun better than anyone else. Even though Lan Ting kept mentioning it in his ears, he cared so much only because he felt guilty. Or perhaps it was because he had once entrusted his love for Enxingyu to her, which was why it was so difficult to let go. But the truth was he cared about her. There was no reason for it. It was a concern that came from the bottom of his heart. "I don't understand." Su Chun took another bottle of wine. After taking a sip, he put it down and said, "I used to think that you were a little girl. You were worried about personal gains and losses, but you were very clingy. But after you left me, you fell in love with Mu Lichuan so quickly. It made me think that you weren't the person I thought you were. Is that so?" Luo Qingshun laughed coldly and said, "Perhaps Professor Su was more accurate in judging me in the past." Luo Qingshun. Su Chan was so angry that he clenched his right fist and slammed it on the table. "Then why can you forget me so easily, but not him?" Chapter 2878. Luo Qingshun gave Su Chan an answer. It was the answer that Su Chan didn't want to face the most, but she said it out loud to him. The surrounding air fell into a deep silence. Without knowing how long passed, Su Chan looked at her with a smile of self-ridicule. "Luo Qingshun, you really are ruthless." Even under such circumstances, she still said that she loved Mu Lichuan. Then, how much did she love him? "Don't worry. I've already received my retribution for being so cruel." Luo Qingshun pursed her lips and said, "Su Chun, I didn't think that I would be able to sit down and have a drink with you. Life is really unpredictable. Why? Am I no longer qualified to drink with the great Miss Luo?" Su Chun pursed his lips and said, "I'm still drinking with the great Miss Luo. I have to queue up now." "That's not the case." Luo Qingshun raised her eyebrows and sneered. "It's just that I don't like to deal with scumbags." "Do you think that Mu Lichuan isn't a scumbag?" Su Chun couldn't hold back the throbbing in his heart. Or maybe he was drunk. He suddenly raised his left hand and grabbed her wrist. "At least, I can't see through my own heart. When I finally saw through it, I'd already used all my energy to make up for it. Mu Lichuan, on the other hand, loves every woman he meets." Bang! The bottle shattered on the ground. Luo Qingshun looked at Su Chun and said, "I won't allow you to talk about him like that." It didn't matter if he was fickle or had a new lover. No matter what kind of person Mu Lichuan was, only she could talk about him like that. No one else could. Li Xiao, who was already drunk, woke up when she heard the shattering of the beer bottle. She stood up shakily and mumbled, "It's broken. It's broken. Let's go. We should go back." Luo Qingshun pulled Lu Xiao and then looked at Su Chun. She sneered, "Professor Su, you should move out as soon as possible. The beach isn't suitable for you." In the next second, she placed the money on the table and turned around to leave the food stall. "Qingshun." Su Chan raised his right hand and loosened his tie. He took a deep breath, looked at her back and shouted, "Luo Qingshun, come back here." In the past, as long as he called her name, she would immediately answer him. But now, she didn't even look back. Why? Why was it also a passionate love story? She cared about Mu Lichuan, but she didn't care about him? On the way back, Luo Qingshun walked alone on the street. Su Chen's words were like sharp needles that pierced deeply into her body. There was no wound, no blood, but it was so painful that it was difficult to breathe. It was a text message from the assistant that she had sent to follow Mu Lichuan. "Ms. Luo, they have just arrived in Melbourne and have entered Mr. Mu's villa in Melbourne." Luo Qingshun didn't reply. She looked at the computer screen and smiled. It was a smile that was uglier than crying. Are they happy? Less than 3 seconds after she sent the text message to her assistant, she received a reply from her assistant. Yeah, they look like a newlywed couple. They look happy. In the next second, Luo Qingshun didn't know where she got the last bit of courage to reply. Chapter 2879. In the end, she still wanted to trample on her pride one last time, and then take one last look at him. When she came back from Melbourne, it would probably be the day she returned to the chaotic space. She didn't know if the system would give her an answer then. Anyway, it didn't answer her anything now. You, Miss Luo, are you really coming? Actually, it's the same for me here. When did you become so naggy? Okay, then come. I'll pick you up at the airport. Okay. The blue sky and white clouds in Melbourne were more beautiful than she had imagined. She didn't tell anyone before she left. Suchin called her a few times, but she didn't pick up. Actually, it wasn't that she was cruel, but that she didn't love him. No matter how she turned back, it was still Suchin's wishful thinking. And this wishful thinking could be her, or it could not be her. At this moment, she wished she had loved Suchin. Then, when Mu Lichuan was so cruel to her, she could return to Suchin's side without hesitation and give him a slap in the face. It was a pity that such a scene would never happen. She didn't love Suchin, not in this life, and not in the next. As soon as she got off the plane, her assistant, Xiao Mei, called her. Xiao Mei used to be her father's assistant. After he became the heir, she became her assistant. Xiao Mei was very beautiful, and like her name, she was always very capable. She knew what to say and what not to say. Miss Luo, are you really going? Xiao Mei frowned, looking very hesitant. Luo Qingshun didn't know why she was hesitating. Was it because she was used to seeing Mu Lichuan and Lan Ji being lovey-dovey, and was afraid of hurting her heart? Okay. She nodded faintly, smiling bitterly. You don't have to look like this. I'm used to it. She was used to bearing all the emotions that Mu Lichuan brought to her alone. It couldn't be worse than the hospital in the small town at the foot of the Alps. I'll drive you to Mr. Mu's villa. Okay. Along the way, she wasn't in the mood to admire the scenery of Melbourne. At this moment, she was like a girl who had no way to make the person she loved deeply in the world of love. She could only see him for the last time like everyone else who was on the verge of despair. From now on, we'll go our separate ways. It was about an hour's drive from the airport to the villa. Mu Lichuan's favorite Maserati was parked outside the villa, but it was a different model from the one he drove in a city. It was a brick-red villa with a blue-white arch. She pressed the doorbell, and the person who came to open the door for her was none other than Lan Ji. She was wearing a light pink dress with a white shawl and a princess hairstyle. She also had a pair of beautiful pearl earrings and a pair of milky white high heels. She looked like a princess from a fairy tale. From head to toe, everything was branded. Perhaps she already had it, or perhaps Mu Lichuan had given it to her. But none of this seemed important. All she saw was Lan Ji opening the door slowly, saying to her in a matriarchal tone, "Come in." Luo Qingshun slightly nodded. Her eyes flashed with coldness as she walked into the villa in her 5-centimeter black high heels. She didn't like wearing high heels, but for some reason, she wore them today. Chapter 2880. The moment she walked into the villa, she was greeted with a refreshing fragrance. There were large areas of flowers planted on both sides of the villa. They were colorful and looked lively. Where's Mu Lichuan? Luo Qingshun's eyes fluttered slightly as she went straight to the point. Lichuan isn't home. It's cold outside. Come in and have a cup of tea. Lan Ji looked at her eyes calmly. There was no emotion in her eyes. She didn't even have the slightest bit of guilt. That was true. What did she need to feel guilty about? Perhaps she had liked Mu Lichuan longer than she had. All of this was because she had won the love of her life. This place was really like a castle in a fairy tale, and she was like a princess. You're really like the mistress of the house. Luo Qingshun snorted coldly and didn't say anything else. Lan Ji might have thought that she was mocking her, but in fact, she was mocking herself more. Come up. Luo Qingshun didn't refuse and followed her to the tea room on the second floor. The warm sunlight outside the window shone on her face. A breeze blew and she closed her eyes. Suddenly, the scene of her first meeting with Mu Lichuan flashed in her mind. In a flash, it felt like many years had passed, but it also felt like It was only yesterday. This is the freshly picked Bilyuakan. Try it. Lanji placed the teacup in front of her and said, what do you plan to do? Does Miss Lanji care about what I plan to do? Luo Qingqian's eyes were on the clouds outside the window and didn't look at her at all. Lanji didn't seem to care. She shrugged and said with a relaxed smile, I'm already with Li Chuan. Don't come again. Lanji bit her lip and said, we won't go back either. I like to travel around the world and take photos. He likes it too. He went to do something and will only be back at night. Perhaps Luo Qingqian's was too indifferent. It made Lanji want to say something, but it was like a thorn stuck in her throat, and she couldn't say anything. Luo Qingqian took a sip of tea and interrupted her. The flowers on both sides of the door are very beautiful. Did you plant them? Or Mu Li Chuan? She didn't know why the villa looked so cold to her, but the flowers on both sides of the villa gave her a sense of security. Lanji's expression changed slightly, but she quickly adjusted herself and said slowly, I like flowers, so Li Chuan planted them. He really cares about you. Luo Qingqian put down the teacup and was about to walk towards the window. She did not expect Lanji to be faster than her and closed the window. It's windy. I'm not feeling well these 2 days, so I can't stand the wind. When he's here, he'll be worried if my cold gets worse when I open the window. The memories of the past suddenly surged into her mind like a tide. I'm not drinking. I'll be sleepy after drinking. You have to drink it. It's been 2 days and it's still not healed. If you don't drink it, I'll keep worrying. Now, his concern had been given to someone else. It was no longer hers. At this moment, her mind went blank. She couldn't think of any of the questions that she had been thinking about, the questions that she had wanted to ask. Lanji knew her quite well. She could make a retreat with just one sentence. I know. Luo Qingqian took a deep breath and looked into Lanji's eyes. She said calmly, I'll never say things like wishing you both happiness. If you really love each other, I hope you both will be together forever. Don't come out and harm others. Chapter 2881. Sitting on the plane to a city, she closed her eyes, and Xiao Mei was sleeping soundly beside her. At this moment, she suddenly had the thought of wanting the plane to crash. If she used the time and space freeze ability, walked to the main control room, and shut down all the functions, would everything be over? But she couldn't let so many people die with her. The moment she walked out of the airport gate, she saw Su Chun again. The warm sunlight shone on the side of his face. He had a handsome face, a tall nose, and thin lips. In fact, the original owner had good taste. Su Chun was really a very good-looking young man. But looking at his face, she would keep thinking about what happened between him and the original owner. Those pictures were like nightmares, flashing in front of her eyes one by one, lingering. Therefore, no matter what, she couldn't like Su Chun. She didn't know if it was the kind of love between male leads, but the kind of love between friends, she couldn't do it. Let's have a cup of coffee together. Su Chin's eyes were very gloomy, as if he wanted to say something, but couldn't say it. Luo Qingqian thought about it. Since she had decided to leave this world, then saying goodbye to this best friend will be like saying goodbye to this world. Okay. Luo Qingqian turned to look at Xiao Mei and said, Go back to the company first and assign the things I told you. Yes, Miss Luo. In an elegant and unique coffee shop, the melodious sound of violin slowly sounded, and the air was filled with the strong aroma of coffee. Did you see him? Can't you change your bad habit of liking to live by the sea? Luo Qingqian didn't reply to Su Chen's question. She left indifferently on the surface, but in fact, she had suppressed all her emotions in the bottom of her heart. Moreover, she didn't need to answer any of Su Chen's questions. Qingqian, I want to ask a psychiatrist today. Su Chen narrowed his eyes, and a touch of worry flashed through his eyes. He told himself that since he couldn't let go of her in his heart, then he would use all his strength to chase her back and use all the warmth in his life to protect her. If it was possible, in the face of such a big matter, he called his best psychiatrist friend. What she said to him made his hair stand on end. As soon as he sent someone to check the time of her return, he was already waiting at the entrance of the airport. This level of care, even he had not done it to Enchinyu back then. In fact, he should admit it. His love for Luo Qingshun had long since surpassed in Qingyu's, but he didn't know it himself. Is there something wrong with your heart? Luo Qingshun took a sip of coffee and sneered. Missing your lover too much. She admitted that every word she said to Su Chun was laced with sarcasm. In her eyes, Su Chun was that kind of person. What you can't get is always in turmoil, and those who are favored are always fearless. You? Su Chun tugged at her collar and bit her lip. Yes, yes, yes. You're right. You miss your lover too much. Are you satisfied? Do you want to know who it is? Luo Qingshun shrugged and sneered. Looking at your expression, you want to say it's me? Do you believe it? I don't believe it. Luo Qingshun, the doctor said that you need someone to accompany you during this period of time. Su Chen's eyes were very deep, as if the sharp light could see through her. Chapter 2882. It was snowing outside the window, and the streetlights on both sides of the street lit up. Looking at the light, she couldn't help but fall into a daze. Su Chen looked at her angrily and said, I'm worried about you. Will you let me feel at ease? Su Chun. Luo Qingshun didn't seem to answer him. Instead, she sighed and said, there are many things in this world that you don't understand and can't see through. Don't live by the sea anymore. You should move. After saying that, she slowly got up and continued, you don't have to send me off. I want to walk on my own. She came alone, so it was quiet for her to walk alone. Su Chun suddenly froze. He didn't know why, but he felt that something bad was going to happen. This feeling was very obvious. Qingshun. He shouted her name loudly. His magnetic voice trembled slightly as he said, don't you want to see their ending? Her footsteps paused for a second, but it was only for a short second. In the next second, she walked out of the cafe without hesitation. The South Street of City was very lively. People came and went, and there was an endless stream of traffic. Every face seemed to have a smile on it. It was as if they didn't have any worries in their lives. In fact, Luo Qingshun hadn't thought of a way to leave this world. Suicide? Wasn't that a little too weak? Shouldn't she be like her personality? No matter what, even if the south wall collapsed, she wouldn't choose to turn around and jump into the abyss. In a daze, many images began to appear in her mind. Some of them came from this world, and some came from the previous world. Just as she was immersed in her memories, she heard the long sound of a truck braking. It seemed to be shouting crazily, move, 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 and at this moment, a sentence appeared in her mind. Don't you want to see their ending? No, she couldn't die. She had to see their ending with her own eyes. Time and space froze. Everything stopped at this moment. She turned around and looked at Su Chun, who was running toward her. From now on, they didn't owe each other anything. Duh. With a snap of her fingers, everything returned to normal. I killed someone. What do I do? What do I do? Oh my God. Darling, I don't dare to look. Don't look. I reckon he's been swept under the car. Don't look if you're a coward. Quick, dial 120. I saw that the girl was in a trance just now. She didn't even look at such a big truck and walked past it. Qingshun. Su Chun chased after them and leaned under the truck, but she couldn't see anything. The next second, he picked up the driver's collar and said, that person. Where's the person you hit? I don't know. No. I didn't hit her. She ran the red light herself. I'm asking you, where is she now? Even the cultured and refined Su Chen couldn't help but curse at this moment. He was the only one who knew how anxious he was. She's not under the car? The driver's eyes widened, and his entire body fell to the ground. It was completely empty. There was nothing, not even a trace of blood. I didn't hit anyone. The driver looked as if he was relieved of a burden, and he jumped up excitedly. Chapter 2883. Beep, beep. In the next second, his phone suddenly rang with a text message. I'm home. Luo Qingshun. She didn't want to tell Su Chun that she was safe, but she didn't want to cause trouble for others. After that night, Luo Qingshun completely dispelled the thought of returning to the chaotic space. Everything that happened in this world had never happened to her in the past. She wanted to stay and see the result for herself. Was it a fairy tale, or did Lonji end up like her? But the truth was, the princess and prince in the fairy tale seemed to be living happily together. She heard that Mu Lichuan and Lan Ji had taken a long leave to travel around the world. Mu Lichuan started to use Weibo again, describing his journey with Lan Ji during the photo shoot. Luo Qingshan registered a second account and secretly followed his Weibo. His Weibo name was simple, Bai Li. Mu Lichuan's Weibo was called Mu Lichuan a long time ago, but he changed it to Bai Li after he got engaged. She asked for the reason at that time, but he didn't tell her. Now, those little words of love that he didn't have time to say to her might have already been said to someone else. Actually, people who love photography wouldn't be at home all year round. They could take photos from glaciers to deserts and from deserts to rainforests. In short, the more deserted the place was, the more it could arouse their interest. To Mu Lichuan and Lan Ji, it was more like a journey for them to be together. On the 40th day after she returned from Melbourne, Mu Lichuan started to update his Weibo. He changed his Weibo name again, Baili0220. Baili0220, World of Flowers. The attached picture was of the flowers he planted in front of his villa in Melbourne. Red was the most common color, covering all the edges. The photos he took were still very beautiful, and were indeed taken by him personally. Because she knew him too well, she could tell if every photo was taken by him or not. Mu Lichuan's focus in the scene was often different from others. The angle he took photos from was very special, and most people couldn't imitate it. That day, Xiaomei told her 10 minutes after he posted on Weibo. Looking at his familiar name, her eyes couldn't help but turn red. No one could understand the sadness in her heart. Now, there was no need for anyone to understand. Drip, drip, drip. Outside the window, it suddenly started to drizzle. In less than 5 minutes, the drizzle instantly turned into a heavy downpour. It was as if even the heavens felt sad for her at this moment. Luo Qingshan closed her eyes. Her right hand gently stroked Mu Lichuan's name on the screen of her phone. Tears started to roll down her cheeks. It was as if the heavy rain had wiped out all the sadness in her heart. From then on, she never saw Mu Lichuan and Lan Ji again. He still updated his Weibo once a month. When the school's photography exhibition needed photos, he would send them over from afar for the students to admire. Time passed quickly, and 3 years passed in the blink of an eye. He posted a total of 36 Weibo posts and went to countless places to take beautiful photos. Bears in the Arctic, penguins in the Antarctic, deer in the rainforest, endless mountains. He had once said that he would take her to see the beautiful scenery of the world, but now he had brought someone else. The funny thing was that the ending she stayed to watch was really a fairy tale. That year, she graduated from college. Chapter 2884. I'm so envious of Lan Ji. She's in a rich family. She's traveling around the world every day, and there's such a handsome school hunk. Yes, during the photography exhibition, young Master Li's photos would be sent back every year. Every one of them looks good. Yes, 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 they're all at the front. Luo Qingshan looked at it a few times. Just as she was about to turn and leave, a familiar figure appeared beside her. It's been 3 years. Haven't you given up yet? Su Chen's appearance did not change, but he did give off a much more mature feeling. The beach is really your home. Luo Qingshan smiled helplessly, putting her hands in her pockets. Time is the best medicine to heal pain. I've graduated, so it's time for me to say goodbye to you. Where are you going? Su Chen turned around, a faint light flashing in his deep eyes. Now, he did not think that she would commit suicide, but he had a feeling that he would never see her again after she left. I'm going to travel around the world. Luo Qingshan shrugged, smiling softly. I have a lot of money anyway. Although Su Chan was speechless, he still sighed softly. As long as you're happy. There's probably nothing in this world that's worth being happy about. Luo Qingshan looked sideways, taking one last look at Mu Lichuan's photo on the exhibition stage. I don't know if he's happy or not. Sigh, that scumbag. Su Chun seemed to feel a little agitated. He tidied his suit and said, Why do you care if he's happy or not? I'm telling you, he's definitely overjoyed. You don't have the right to talk about him. Luo Qingshan glared at him coldly. Let's not meet again. With that, she turned and left the school. Su Chan did not stop her this time, because after 3 years, he knew clearly that she would never turn back for him. So, it was meaningless. When she arrived at the villa, she was a little dazed and almost bumped into the young man who came to deliver the letter. Ouch! He fell backwards and landed on his back. My butt! Luo Qingshun quickly got out of the car and asked, "Are you okay?" It's nothing." He stood up and said, "I'm in a hurry to deliver the letter. Next time, be careful when you drive." "Well, I'm sorry." Luo Qingxian smiled bitterly and said, "I haven't been back for a long time." The delivery boy waved his hand and walked towards a mailbox. It was Mu Lichuan's mailbox. He took a long time to stuff the letter into the mailbox. "Is this family here or not? If there is one more letter, I won't be able to stuff it in." The delivery boy complained and looked at Luo Qingxian. "Is this your neighbor? No one lives in such a nice villa." Luo Qingxian froze for a moment, then shook her head and said, "I haven't been back for a long time. Ever since Mu Lichuan broke up with her, the Mu and Luo families had not interacted with each other. She heard that Mu Lichuan's parents had moved abroad for their careers and had not returned for a long time." "Fine. I asked for nothing." The delivery boy shrugged and said, "If there is another letter, I'll stuff in your mailbox if I can't stuff it in." Luo Qingxian froze for a moment. Before she could reply, the delivery boy had already walked away. She lowered her gaze and was about to go home when the letter that the delivery boy had shoved into the mailbox fell out. Chapter 2885. Luo Qingxian froze for a second before she slowly walked forward to pick up the envelope on the floor. Suddenly, she felt her fingertips tremble slightly, and she did not dare to open the envelope. However, she never thought that some endings were already predestined, and she did not have any chance at all. She knocked on the mailbox at the door, and 36 envelopes fell out. All of them only had addresses and zip codes, and nothing else. She opened the letters one by one, and every time she opened a letter, there would be more fear in her heart. That fear was like a black fog surrounding her, and she could not get rid of it no matter what. Half an hour later, she called Lanji's number. "Miss Lanji, we haven't contacted each other for a long time." Luo Qingxian did not say anything else, and went straight to the point. "Qingxian, why do you have my number?" She froze for a second before she answered herself. "Look at what I'm saying. It's so easy for someone of your status to get my number." "Where are you?" Luo Qingxian took a deep breath, suppressing all her emotions. "Can we meet? Why did you ask to meet me? Those letters in the mailbox at Mu Lichuan's villa were sent by you, right?" Luo Qingxian interrupted her. "If it is, let's meet. If it isn't, just take it that I never called you." The other end of the phone was unusually quiet. After some time, Lanji sighed deeply. "You finally found out." The meeting location was in a city. Luo Qingxian did not expect Lanji to be in city. She always thought that she must be living like a princess in some romantic country, but that was not the case. The place they met was a music cafe. Due to the renovation, it was not open today. However, when she arrived, Lanji opened the door for her. "Come in. Do you want coffee or juice?" Lanji was wearing a black dress, and her originally ladle-like long hair had become short. She seemed to have darkened a lot, or perhaps it should be said that she had changed from an innocent girl to a mature woman. "No sugar in the coffee." Luo Qingxian's eyes fluttered slightly, and there was a touch of coldness in her voice. If Lanji was here, then what about Mu Lichuan? What did the contents of those letters mean? Coffee is not good for the stomach. If he knew, his heart would ache. Lanji lowered her eyes and smiled bitterly. "Let's drink fruit juice." "Gigi, do you have a friend here?" Lanji had just finished speaking when a man walked down from the second floor of the cafe. He was wearing a light green sportswear and had delicate features. The first impression he gave was that he was especially bright. Go and do your work. I'll settle it myself." Lanji smiled at her, her smile slightly sweet. "Good girl, bring your friends to a private room. I'll help you prepare afternoon tea." "All right." Lanji thought about it and said, "Then let's go over first." It was a private seat by the window. Outside the window, there was a lot of traffic and noise. Lanji put her hands on the table and looked at Luo Qingxian. "Ask whatever you want." Luo Qingxian closed her eyes, and that cold and doting voice sounded in her ears again and again like a nightmare. What does the content of the letter mean? Why did you send it to Mu Lichuan's villa? When she asked this question, she felt her hands trembling uncontrollably. However, she could only clench her fists tightly, not letting Lan Ji see her nervousness.